Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. One Piece. Opening 9 Tales Bombards Mariejois. Chapter 81. The moment he missed Garp's body, he suddenly felt a great pain. Well, boom, a black fist hit his abdomen. Bullet didn't expect that Garp, who had been successfully crossed by him, would appear in front of him again in the blink of an eye. The man knocked him back several hundred meters with one punch, and directly blasted towards the streets inside the city. Bullet's body rubbed against the ground and retreated, forming a channel like a ravine in the street. After he stopped, he felt the pain all over his body. Since when had he not experienced such pain? This guy. It really is a monster. But that's how strong he is. There is no fear in Bullet's heart, but it is full of a kind of longing for strength. Maybe he was born like this, and any desire for honor is just a step on the road to becoming strong. In a short period of time, his nature was truly awakened, and he wanted to become the strongest in the world. That's why I won't be caught by you here. With a low growl, Bullet stood up from the ground after being knocked back, and rushed towards Garp again. Good perseverance. Are you interested in becoming a Marine? Garp was a little surprised when he saw Bullet standing up again. He had punched Bullet with the strength to seriously injure him just now, but this kid was able to stand up again, which made Garp feel pity for his talent. If this kid can join the Marine, then maybe he can become an admiral or even a marshal, right? It's just that he also knows that his question is actually for nothing. After all, the Conqueror's hockey on the other party is so eye-catching, it is really unlikely to join Marine. Seeing Bullet not stopping at all, Garp punched again, and Bullet, who had just rushed over, was sent flying again like a cannonball. No, the difference in strength is too big. Bullet can't get out of Garp's defense. Should we change direction? The punch just now was stronger than the first, almost making Bullet faint, but the strong will supported the body. Bullet finally stood up unsteadily, watching Garp approaching gradually. The figure of that woman suddenly appeared in Bullet's mind. Obviously only saw that side, but it seemed to be very impressive, maybe because she was the first one who let me see what a strong person is. From such a distance, Gray in the barracks was killed with a single finger, and no one else was hurt. That kind of power made Bullet yearn for it very much, and at this moment, just like when he was dying, the woman appeared again. Just being watched by her seemed to restore a lot of strength to Bullet. He looked at Garp, who was getting closer, and shouted loudly. His fist turned black, and punched Garp. It's useless. Garp also yelled, and when Bullet's fist was getting closer and closer, he also punched, but at this moment he flinched, because he realized that not only Bullet, but also someone around him. Boom! His fists clashed with Bullet's, and suddenly the collision between the armed men broke out. However, this should not have happened, because the original Bullet could not have done this, and Garp was still able to severely damage Bullet just now. But now, Bullet is almost even with him. Garp frowned, and after the fist clash ended, Bullet took several steps back, panting, and he also realized that someone was helping him just now. Who? Bullet asked loudly. Garp also activated his knowledge, but before he could pay attention to the spread, he saw that person had already appeared. He rushed to Bullet's side quickly from a distance, and his appearance surprised Garp and others even more. The man who appeared had dark green skin, 2 tentacles on his head, and a third eye. His eyes seemed to have an evil golden color. He was a member of Genichi's army of superhuman aliens. After more than a year of mental training and eating monster cells, he had no problem helping Bullet fight Garp's punch. After all, Garp didn't use his full strength. But at the moment Garp shrank from his childish hole, reminding him of someone when he saw this guy. A person he took away a year ago is the guy that Zero possessed. Although Zero didn't have a third eye at that time, and he didn't have such tentacles, but the color of his skin was similar to the feeling he felt with the color of knowledge. The Lord is here. Garp grinned. They didn't come to Jaltsburg country to capture Bullet. The purpose from the very beginning was to capture these demon followers. I thought it would be a big search after Sengoku and the others came, but I didn't expect it to pop up now. It seems that he caught Bullet really right. Who are you? What Garp didn't expect was that Bullet didn't seem to know much about this demon believer, and instead kept a distance from him. A qualified body. However, the Esper didn't say much, but just looked at Bullet with the same gaze as an object, which made Bullet very disgusted. However, Bullet is too weak now, and he was punched several times by Garp, and they were all attacks that were just enough to seriously injure him. He survived by perseverance before, but it does not mean that perseverance will always exist. At this moment, he was almost unable to support himself, and he was about to fall, but just when he was about to fall to the ground, the index finger of the green power user hooked up, and an invisible force suddenly supported him. Bullet's body. Is that the power that the Demon Zero gave you? Garp approached excitedly. I'm not Zero. Strangely, the psychic didn't open his mouth, but the voice just appeared in Garp's heart. Is it a type of observation hockey? But I didn't sense the existence of hockey either. Garp frowned, and he said directly, I know you're not Zero, that guy Zero wouldn't just show his face like that, but you just have something to do with him, don't you think you can take that bullet from me? Run away from your hands. Quote. I am number 3. Although I cannot travel through yin and yang like number 0, the secular space cannot restrain us, the new human beings who have inherited the power of demons. Number 3. Is there still number 2 and number 1? 0 is actually the number 0. Garp got such information from his words again, and the next moment he saw number 3 pressing his hand on Bullet's head. A bad premonition appeared in Garp's heart. Don't try to run. Garp slammed forward, but both 3 and Bullet disappeared at that moment. Disappeared. Isn't this kind of power too shameless? Even Garp was taken aback by watching number 3 disappear suddenly. Such a person, who was standing here just now, and carrying a bullet, but disappeared in the next second. Teleport. If you carefully strengthen it, it seems that the Devil Dragon has also shown this sudden position change, but the distance of the Devil Dragon is very short, and it seems to consume a lot of energy. Is this the Devil's exclusive skill? Garp's expression was ugly. He was going to catch one of the root causes of this incident soon. After all, number 3. It sounds like it should also be at the forefront of those demon believers, right? However, now they have lost their trace in an instant. And most importantly, if all the enemies have the ability to teleport, how can they catch them? To catch an enemy that can suddenly disappear. Isn't this a joke? However, it would not be enough to say that it disappeared. After all, Garp is actually still open to knowledge. At this moment, he has noticed the positions of number 3 and Bullet, which are about 1 kilometer away from him. Go and chase. Sure enough, there was something wrong with this teleportation. Garp let out a low growl, and immediately took a large number of Marines and ran towards the direction he perceived. Their teleportation cannot be used continuously, which is good news for Garp, but just as he was thinking this way, he faintly sensed that there was suddenly another person where the 2 were. When the 3 of them got together, it was another teleportation, this time completely out of Garp's line of sight. It's not that teleportation cannot be used continuously, but because there is a long delay in using teleportation before the end of the 3-year practice period. Therefore, they often have to teleport in advance, and then leave after a few minutes. Number 3 had already planned teleportation based on time calculations before it appeared, and after talking to Garp a few more words, it activated the ability that had been set a few minutes ago. But now it is another superpower prepared in advance. Before seeing number 3 appearing with Bullet, he has already set the teleportation location, so he can disappear directly in Garp's perception. However, Garp doesn't know all of this. He thinks that teleportation cannot be used continuously, but there are multiple people who can use teleportation to teleport, which is very troublesome. The teleportation distance should only be about 1 kilometer, keep chasing. Garp thought so in his heart, but he also knew that there was a high probability that they would escape. He was too careless. If Bullet had been subdued at the beginning, there wouldn't be so many things later, but who would have thought that those demon believers would suddenly appear? Although it also allowed Garp to confirm that there were indeed demon believers here, and allowed him to see their whole picture and experience their fighting ability, but he felt that it was still a loss. It's a pity that he found nothing in the end. When he came to the place where they were transferred to before, there was only an empty land, and no one knew where they were transferred to for the second time. Unfortunately, they ran away. Garp said with a little regret, if one can be caught here, it will definitely save a lot of trouble in the future. Telling Marine to continue the search, Garp remembered the number 3 he had seen before. It's pretty good in terms of strength, and Garp isn't sure if that's all he can do, so it's conceivable that things won't be smooth sailing for them. After all, it is a group with the ability to move instantly. I brought a dispatch order from the world government, and the countries on this island and several surrounding islands will dispatch their troops to surround the entire island, and they will not be able to escape from this island. When I came here, I communicated with Mazima. She said that demons cannot be understood by human thinking, and the same is true of demon believers. They are likely to wait for our arrival in their lair instead of conducting base transfer. On the other side, Sengoku, who was heading towards Jaltsburg, was a little surprised after hearing what happened to Garp on the boat, but he still said confidently, "This time their marine rights are great, and they have not harmed the interests of several countries on the surrounding islands. They themselves have been at war all year round for nothing more than money, and this time Sengoku brought enough money, coupled with the world government's transfer order, enough for several countries to use their forces to surround the country. This island is also several kilometers away from the nearest land. According to Garp's previous observations, they absolutely cannot directly cross over to another island, so as long as they are still on this island, they will be caught by them sooner or later." "Where's the Black Order people?" Garp asked again, hearing Makima in Sengoku's words. "Stay with me, and when the time comes, we will form a blockade of this island with the armies of other countries." Sengoku whispered. "Makima and Thor are not here. They say they are going to New World to capture other demons. The Black Order has only been established for a year now, and there are not many powerful masters at all. Makima and Thor are not there, so their strength is just for decoration. Of course, it is said that they are not there, but as long as they succeed in finding the base of those demon believers, they will definitely come soon. There is only so much meat, and it will be up to who can get more. By the way, you can investigate the Three-Eyed Clan later." Garp actually didn't really want to care about the exchange of benefits among those above. He and Sengoku have different views on the Black Order. Sengoku thinks that the Black Order is an organization that lurks under the world government and may grow into a huge evil organization, while Garp thinks that the world government is like that, so don't talk to the Black Order. Who is worse? Garp thinks that he is the Marine of Naval Headquarters, not the Marine of the world government, or that most of the famous people in Marine have their own justice. So he didn't want to talk too much with Sengoku on this topic, but mentioned the Three-Eyed tribe. The Three-Eyed race is also a race in the world of One Piece, with a third eye on the forehead. Later, the Charlotte Pudding of the Big Mom Pirates was a hybrid born of the Big Mom and the Three-Eyed race. Once the third eye awakened, it could interpret historical texts. Garp said that to Sengoku because he saw that number 3 also had an eye on his forehead. Could it be that the Three-Eyed people believed in demons? There is also this possibility. After all, it is a race that can awaken the dangerous ability to interpret historical texts. The world government doesn't like this race very much. You should check this kind of thing yourself. We are not in the headquarters now, you can do what I can do. Sengoku yelled at Garp with a vein popping out on his forehead. "No, you are Marine Admiral. You have a higher position than me. You can definitely find things that I have no right to find." Garp's indifferent tone made Sengoku a little speechless. Who in Naval Headquarters didn't know that Garp said it was Vice Admiral, but in fact it was no different from Admiral. "I will pass the news to the headquarters, and let the Marshal and his old man worry about it." Sengoku pushed the matter out, and said again, "I'm curious about the power used by number 3, please tell me in detail." Speaking of No. 3, Garp also said solemnly, "I didn't fight him head-on. He put his power on Bullet's body from a distance, or released a power from a distance that mixed with Bullet's fist. Together. Far away. It looks a bit like the armed color winding and external release, but there are some differences. It should be the power of the devil," Garp said in a deep voice. "In short, the opponent's strength is very strong. Number 3 is indeed worthy of Garp's strong evaluation. After all, there is often a fault in Marine. On average, the gap between Vice Admiral and Vice Admiral is almost as big as the gap between ordinary people and Vice Admiral." Although number 3 only made a shot for a split second, Garp felt that the ordinary Marine was by no means his opponent. "Don't worry, there should already be some CP lurking on the island," Sengoku whispered. "When necessary, they will also take action. How long will you be there?" Garp didn't seem to want to talk about CP-related things, so he changed the subject again. "Give it another 2 days, during which time you investigate Bullet's life and who he was in contact with before, frozen. I don't want it, Garp said with a face. Of course. You can do this kind of thing. I'm going to go find Bullet. Hello, Garp, Sengoku said angrily, but when he shouted to the other end of the phone, Garp had already hung up the phone. Quote. Sengoku looked at the phone bug in front of him speechlessly, and finally shook his head. Forget it, anyway, I'll be there soon, he said, comforting himself, and then walked to the deck of the warship, ready to enjoy the sea breeze. The sky was already getting dark, and he looked at the vast sea, feeling a long-lost peace in his heart. This time it is definitely not a task that can be solved in a short time. I really don't know when he will be able to leave after arriving in Jaltsburg. Sengoku looked at the dim sea horizon in the distance, and suddenly seemed to see something. His observation hockey spread out, and immediately accurately captured the traces of life in front of him. That's a man hanging on a drifting log in the sea, with ragged clothes and some blood on his body, looks like he was drifted here after a shipwreck. It's just that I don't know why, the moment I saw him, Sengoku felt something touched in his heart. No, it wasn't the touch after seeing him, or even earlier, it was because of that touch that Sengoku used his knowledge to discover an inconspicuous fainted victim on the sea of a sleepy world. I don't know why, but Sengoku felt that his intuition that he had reached the peak of his mental and physical skills through the Buddha fruit could determine that this boy had a certain relationship with him. Or, have a certain relationship with Buddha. Bring up the victims. Although there were some touches in his heart, Sengoku still calmly gave orders to Marine, and after a while, 2 sailors brought the victim covered in seawater onto the warship. Sengoku looked at him with a frown. Why was there a feeling he hadn't had in decades? The victim looked like he was in his 20s, but he was a little rough. He was about 1.8 meters tall and was completely soaked. After being moved to the deck, he suddenly opened his mouth and spit out a lot of water. Send him to the medical room and let me know when he wakes up. Sengoku took a look and ordered him to be treated again. As a normal strength, Marine and Pirate are very different. Whenever Marine is injured, he has to wrap it with big bandages and small bandages several times, as if he is about to die. Even Sengoku, Garp, and Marine's Admiral are like this. Sengoku wore bandages after the Summit War, and Fujitora also wore some bandages whenever they fought. That's because they have a complete medical system. After the battle, of course it is natural to go for treatment. Compared with Marine, almost all old pirates suffer from various diseases. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, is plagued by serious illnesses. Roger also suffers from a terminal illness in his later years. Green Pepper also suffers from hidden diseases after recovering from the head vertebrae. Almost all of them suffer from hurt. On the other hand, Marine, Sengoku was older than Whitebeard in the Summit War. Whitebeard was only 72 years old at that time, Sengoku was 77 years old, and Garp was also 76 years old. As a result, Sengoku and Garp were not sick, it was just age, it's just aging. This reflects the formality of Marine. Like Marine senior non-commissioned officers, needless to say, the annual physical examination and medical expenses can be reimbursed after each battle. Wouldn't it be a pity for this benefit if you don't wear a few more bandages? Even if the pirates have a ship doctor on board, they can only guarantee that they are fine at the moment, and the many hidden injuries accumulated in the long-term battle will not show up when they are young. Once they reach old age, there is nothing they can do. However, he seems to have been seriously injured, and the information from the medical staff is not very optimistic. According to the diagnosis, he seems to have suffered a huge shock, but there are no signs of being punched or kicked on his body, just like the attack it's done from a distance. Armament hockey out, or Conqueror's winding, or some kind of devil fruit ability. If it is hockey, it can only be said that there are many things involved in this person. After all, those who can master armament hockey's external release and Conqueror's entanglement are all powerful people in the sea. But what concerned Sengoku the most was the sudden whim at that time, especially after seeing him up close on the deck. It gave Sengoku a familiar feeling. What are you familiar with? Until now, Sengoku slowly remembered what the familiarity was. Indra, does this boy have any relationship with Shishin? He waited slowly for news from the medical room. After 2 days, the man finally woke up when he was about to arrive in Jaltsburg. What's your name? Was Sengoku's first question when he arrived. The man was half lying on the bed. He didn't seem to notice Sengoku's arrival, but he still said his name slowly. Xing. In the ward, Xing was half lying on the hospital bed, and his physical recovery ability was far beyond ordinary people. The door was opened, and Marine Admiral wearing the cloak of justice, Sengoku of the Buddha, walked in through the door. At this moment, he walked into the room with a kind of majesty. There were only the two of them in the room. After all, there was no need to provide a doctor and nurse for someone of unknown origin. May I have your name? Marine who walked in saw that Xing's injury seemed to be recovering, so he said. Xing stared blankly ahead, did not set his eyes on Marine Admiral, seemed to be thinking about something. After hearing Sengoku's question, he subconsciously replied. Xing, you can call me Xing. That's right, the Xing character card drawn by Genichi has almost reached the bottleneck of practice in a year. If you go further, you will either need a good teacher or a lot of battles, among which high-intensity battles are the most important. So he sent Xing to Marine. After all, Tathagata palm and Buddha fruit are also very compatible, right? Xing himself is a unique martial arts genius. In just 1 year, he has practiced Haki to a very high level. I can't help him. Originally, he was the strongest one drawn by Genichi out of the 100,000 character cards, and he is still the strongest among the three. That's right, he was molded out of 4 pieces of 4 soul jade fragments and monster cells. Than Genichi the demon dragon is even stronger now. Of course, because these two people have never fought, they beat themselves when they fight, so it is only Genichi's own judgment. Xing's physique is also at the level of a monster. In the Kung Fu movie, he was beaten by Huiyin Cthulhu. His whole body was broken and his veins were broken. Instead of dying, he used his attack to open up Rendu's second vein, and he recovered in a very short time. Come over. Such a physique is amazing even in the world of One Piece. That's why he was able to achieve a recovery speed that even surprised Sengoku. After all, he spent a lot of time trying to sneak in. Sengoku was a little surprised at the moment when he said his name, because it was a weird name, but this world is inherently weird, and in such a world, anything is possible. So Xing, can you tell me what happened to you at sea? We are a righteous Marine, and I am also Admiral of Marine. If you are attacked in any way, you can ask us for help. Xing was silent and didn't speak. After a while, he didn't answer Sengoku's question directly, but asked another matter. He put his eyes on Sengoku, and said softly, Marine Admiral, there is a power in you that I am particularly concerned about. Let me see it? Sengoku looked at Xing, who was half lying on the bed, and met his eyes. It seemed that the inexplicable feeling before was not an illusion, and the other party also felt the same way. Sengoku said directly, have you met Indra? No, Xing said, I've never seen Shishin. Sengoku frowned. He felt a little breath of Shishin from Xing's body, although the feeling was only for a moment, it should be unmistakable. You have some kind of aura of a great Buddha on your body. He said, can you tell me where it comes from? Buddha. Xing was slightly stunned. I have practiced Tathagata palm, I don't know if it is the Buddha you mentioned. Tathagata. Sengoku was obviously surprised. Even he couldn't help showing a surprised expression at this moment. He is the Sengoku of the Buddha who ate the fruit of the great Buddha. How could he not know what the Tathagata is? What is Tathagata palm? As if seeing his question, Xing said again, I met an old man when I was very young. He gave me a copy of the palm of the Tathagata, and then disappeared. It is a kind of the method of practice, is also a book that summons bad luck. Xing said in a deep voice, that book attracts demons. Sengoku looked at Xing and didn't speak, but his heart was already overwhelmed. Demon. Could it be the demon, he thought. After I got that book, I have been hunted down by people. They seem to be everywhere. Fortunately, the Tathagata palm also has some incredible power, which makes me avoid that kind of killing. Until today, it's been 10 years. You are a righteous Marine, and you have the feeling of a Buddha in your body. That's why I told you these things. I hope you can help me get back the Tathagata palm. What is Tathagata palm? Sengoku asked, and what are those demons? Don't worry, you can tell me slowly on the way. At this moment, the warship is about to arrive in Jaltsburg. Sengoku felt that there should be more to say here, so he looked at Ashing and said, "How is your injury now?" "It's not a big deal anymore. Where are you going?" "The country of Jaltsburg," Sengoku said honestly, but the place name made Shingtong shrink back, and a kind of momentum burst out of him. Sengoku's eyes narrowed slightly. The moment just now seemed like a conqueror's hockey eruption, but something fundamentally different. "Are you from the country of Jaltsburg?" Seeing his reaction, Sengoku said indifferently, "Our purpose this time is to clean up the demons in the country of Jaltsburg, so it seems that our purpose is the same of." Shing struggled to get up from the hospital bed. He was still wearing a white hospital gown. Sengoku didn't stop him, but went out with him instead. At this moment, when the sun is shining brightly, the Marines are operating on the warship in an orderly manner, preparing for the next landing and border operations. "It's really that country." Xing's face darkened slightly. "Is this the doomed cause and effect?" "The Tathagata God's palm. It should be regarded as a kind of practice method. I got that book when I was very young. At the beginning, my body didn't change in any way, but it made my spirit become broader. There is a strong sense of foreboding. But in the end, I still couldn't escape. I was seriously injured by those guys, and the secret book of Tathagata God's palm was also taken away. I also had a premonition that something was about to happen, maybe within a year or two." Sengoku listened to Xing's words and said, "Since I have been chasing you for several years, why didn't I seek Marine's help before? No one will believe my words, devil. Who would believe in the existence of devil?" Ashing said with some self-deprecation. "I gave up after that, not to mention that I have exhausted my energy just constantly avoiding the devil's search. How could it be possible to go to naval headquarters?" Sengoku nodded, which made sense. Before the appearance of the Black Order, no one believed in the existence of demons in this world, and it was basically regarded as the ability of devil fruit. Although, those people should not actually be demons, but just a group of bewitched people who believe that demons have gained power. They also have the ability to move instantly, so it is only natural that the person in charge doesn't believe Xing's words. "I will wipe out all the demons on the island. If you are interested, just follow me," Sengoku said calmly. "It happens that we still have something to ask you." Shing nodded. It was his task to join Marine and mix with the top management. Sooner or later, Genichi will plug all the forces into his avatar, and then he will be the real king of the world. "Come with me to a place after I get to Jaltsburg country." Shing said to Sengoku, "That's where I lived for the previous year, and I'm afraid the demons might attack them." Quote exclamation mark quote. Sengoku was delighted when he heard this. "There is such a place. Tell me the location, and I will send someone to protect it now." "No, just observe there secretly first. This may be the only clue they have to hang out those demons at present. It would be best if this place can be used as a bait to attract demon believers. At that time, he and Garp will hide in the dark, and Shing is the bait. Although they have already got the Tathagata palm, they may continue to attack Shing if they know that Shing is still alive." Sengoku originally wanted to wait for them to go straight to the entire country and search the entire country by taking advantage of the number of people. It's just that it's too time-consuming. To survey every inch of land, I'm afraid it won't be completed in a few years. Of course, the world government didn't give them much time limit for this task, but they didn't want to waste years on such a task. Now that there is Shing as the bait, maybe it can reduce the waste of a lot of time. No matter who Shing is, what he said is true or not, but Sengoku has confidence in his and Garp's strength. If this is a trap, then it doesn't matter. Because, even if it is a conspiracy by the enemy to attack actively, it must have a lot of clues about them. As long as they move, they will inevitably have flaws. Of course, the best result is that what Shing said is true, and those demon believers were successfully hooked up by his bait. After they eliminated each other, they got Tathagata palm and Pandora's box. This is the perfect result. Arrive. Sengoku and Shing sat on the deck and talked for a while, mainly to exchange about Xing's past life and his character. At least during this time, Sengoku didn't find any problems. At this time, they have finally arrived in the Jaltsburg country. They entered from the southern port, so it should only take a while to rendezvous with Garp. Before that, he had already sent Garp the location that Ashing mentioned, and asked Garp to observe from the outside, and not to go inside to startle the snake. Although Garp has always been egotistical, he probably won't be at this time. Trouble him. Thinking about it like this, Sengoku feels more and more unreliable, that Garp guy. You won't really cause trouble for him, will you? Vice Admiral Garp. At this moment, Garp has arrived at the location Sengoku mentioned in the previous communication. He also did not expect that there was a very small village in such a deep mountain. He still remembered Sengoku's words, and didn't enter it. Instead, he stood directly on a mountain and looked down. This small village is surrounded by mountains on all sides, and only a very small area in the center is the place where human beings live. Therefore, the buildings here are built very high for people to live here. This place is called the Pig Cage Walled City. It has been decades. At that time, the whole country was in war, and some people fled to this deep mountain to escape the war. Behind Garp was an official of the Numenon government, he introduced to Garp. After the war ended, those people didn't come out again. Instead, they built a small village there and survived self-sufficiently. The outside world has almost forgotten them for so many years. However, this is of course impossible in reality, it's just that Makima has manipulated their memories to fabricate such a pig cage city, and those people inside are actually some dead people who were manipulated by her puppet. Garp got a little interested when he heard about it, a self-sufficient small town that the country has almost forgotten about. How did that Sengoku guy know that from above the sea? Even though he hasn't arrived in this country yet, he inexplicably told himself such a position, and asked himself to observe secretly not to act rashly, but he couldn't wait any longer. Vice Admiral Garp, Sengoku Admiral said he can't go in and scare the snake. Seeing that Garp seemed to want to jump directly from the mountain, the officials behind him were so frightened that they stopped him. Garp said indifferently, "Give me your bodyguard's clothes, I can go in without wearing Marine's clothes." After finishing speaking, he had already taken off all the shirts and jackets of an entourage behind the official, and the official's clothes were too formal, so he didn't want them. And the male entourage whose shirt was stripped looked shy and quickly covered his chest with his hands. The next moment Garp threw his marine coat to him. "Okay, just wear my clothes." "But Mr. Garp, isn't your appearance a little too conspicuous?" The official was still a little worried, but he couldn't stop Garp, because Garp had already jumped directly from the hundreds of meters of the mountain at this moment. Jump off. They were shocked. This is hundreds of meters in the air, is it really okay to jump directly from this height? Of course, no problem, ordinary common sense doesn't apply to strong people at all. Garp fell to the ground with his legs and directly smashed a hole in the ground, but he himself patted the dust, nothing happened. The Pigpen walled city is about 500 meters ahead, and there are not many people inside. However, it's hot. It was only after Garp came down that he noticed that the temperature in this area surrounded by mountains was really high, and the scorching air seemed to blur his vision. Garp walked to the front of the town and looked at the huge brand. Pigpen Walled City. The name is also very strange, I really don't know why such a name was chosen. But Garp didn't care, he strode in. Pigpen Walled City looks like a slum. Garp's first impression of this village after he walked in was dilapidated and poor. The houses inside are actually connected together. It is said that the village is actually more like a huge apartment, and this apartment should have not been repaired for decades, and there are old signs everywhere. However, although the sparrow is small and complete, after Garp came in, he could still see many shops. The people walking outside said this sporadically. Although their faces were covered with hot sweat, they were actually more angry than he was in people living in the cities outside or even more concentrated. And when they saw him coming in, they didn't seem to have any other reaction, and Garp was so happy. He walked around casually, and then walked in when he saw a steamed stuffed bun shop. Maybe it was not time for dinner. There was only one owner in the bun shop, and the owner was lying on a chair, covering his face with a book, and didn't notice Garp coming in. Garp didn't see any difference in the people here, but there must be something wrong with Sengoku's special warning. After sitting down, Garp said to the boss, "Boss, there are guests." Garp's sound woke up the boss. He was shocked, took the book off his head and saw Garp, who had already sat down, and immediately put on a flattering face and said, "What does the guest want to eat?" "Buns. Meat buns," Garp said loudly. "Any kind of meat is fine." Then, How about tiger meat buns? Or wolf meat? The boss looked at Garp and suddenly said with some hesitation, looking at the appearance of the guest, it seems to be from outside. Well, I passed by here when I was visiting relatives, but I didn't expect there to be such a town among the mountains. Garp said casually. It was only when he said this that he noticed what the boss said before, and he couldn't help but raise his voice. Tiger meat, wolf meat, are there any buns filled with meat like this sold in normal towns? We don't have the conditions for animal husbandry here. Although we have a few cows, they are all working. So we can only hunt ferocious animals such as tigers, wolves and wild boars from outside to make a living. The boss side road. Although it's dangerous, there's nothing you can do about it. This is life. If you pass by here, you should be careful. There are many ferocious beasts ahead. Garp knowingly asked, how did your town get built in such a place? If there are so many beasts, why not move to the city? The boss spread his hands and said helplessly, humans are much more ferocious than beasts. Even tigers, leopards, lions, and wolves combined are far less harmful than humans. We would rather fight with beasts, so we moved here. Quote. That's it. Garp sighed, such a country is indeed like this, but no one can change such a world, and neither can he. Then serve me tiger meat buns. Garp has eaten all kinds of meat, not to mention tiger meat. He also eats a lot of sea king's meat, but that is based on his super strength of. And these residents seem to be just ordinary people, but they would rather fight with beasts like tigers than go back to the city, which can only be said to be emotional. Garp wanted to get to know the village well, so he asked again while waiting, do you often come here from outsiders? The main reason is that if it was just a closed village, it would be very surprising to see an outsider like him coming. However, after he came, almost no one was surprised, as if it was commonplace. In the past, not many people came. This was a safe haven built by our parents at that time. Not many people knew about it. If they knew, they would not come to our place where there is no oil or water and it is full of danger. The boss brought a drawer of steamed buns to Garp's table, and said with some emotion, however, people often come here in the past few years. In the past, this town was actually pretty good. As for having to fight a tiger. But because of those people, we're all very stressed right now. Garp raised his eyebrows. He felt that the point was coming, so he immediately said, who is here? It's just that the boss's answer made him a little disappointed. He sat in front of Garp and sighed. A gangster from the surrounding city has been running into the village for a year. It seems to be looking for something, and every time he comes, he takes a lot of things away. Seeing the boss sighing, Garp said indignantly, do you dare to fight tigers, but are you afraid of some gangsters? This is the scary thing about human beings. The boss shook his head. It is human beings that are more ferocious than any beasts and monsters. Nothing knows how to deal with humans better than humans. Garp stuffed a bun into his mouth and didn't speak. From this point of view, it is true that the history of human beings is a manual that records how people can kill people more efficiently, and it has almost reached its peak in this era. What are those gangsters looking for here? Garp noticed that the time the boss said started a year ago, but what happened a year ago? A year ago, the jade of the four souls was broken, and if we insisted on looking for things, there would only be fragments of the jade of the four souls. Could it be that there is a fragment of the jade of the four souls in this village? If there were, then there must be someone behind those gangsters, otherwise, how could they confirm the whereabouts of the jade fragments of the four souls? Garp was about to ask about those gangsters, but suddenly noticed a lot of commotion outside, as if a lot of people were approaching. It's not good. They're here again. The boss turned his head and saw that his face changed drastically. He said quickly, guests, please hide quickly. If they find out about you, nothing good will happen. Garp also looked over. He only saw a large number of people in black clothes appearing from the entrance of the pigpen walled city. He didn't hide as the boss said, but he didn't come forward directly. He wanted to see what they were going to do. Do what? Did they come with so many people in the past? Garp clearly sensed the killing intent from them. He asked the boss. No. Before, at most a dozen people came, but not as many as this time. The boss's tone was obviously flustered. Garp finished the last bun on the table, and the next moment a gangster in black kicked open the door and walked in. Get out, brats, let me tell you that if you don't hand over the treasure today, we won't be polite. Closing parenthesis. While Garp waits for a follow-up from the mob, Genichi prepares him for the right opponent. Among his characters now, although there are some who can fight against Garp, they already have their own identities. The Thunder God and Makima transformed by rocks are in the Black Sect, Shiki transformed into Shaji is an ice and snow demon from the side of the Devil Dragon, and Tuyuro is a well-known sea monster in New World. None of the other characters are qualified to fight Garp, but that doesn't mean Genichi has no other options. Because he has weirdo cells. The eccentric cells can make people eccentric, and the appearance after the eccentric cannot be said to have nothing to do with before, it is basically irrelevant. After Shiki ate the strange man's cells, he became the ice demon killing ring, which made him unable to recognize his old opponent when he fought against Garp. But now, Genichi wants to let Tuyuro eat a monster cell. In fact, his strength is almost saturated. After eating the monster cell, he doesn't know how much his strength will increase. He let Huyulu eat this thing this time, also for the test. In the underground base, Huyulu swallowed the strange man's cells into his stomach, and suddenly a change came from his body, a wave of heat gushed out from his body, and a force was transforming his life form. Tuyuro was actually similar to a normal person when he was not in a 100% state, but now his body is undergoing a kind of swelling, and a kind of black seeps out from the skin, and the surface of Tuyuro's body becomes dark hard, like an extra layer of hard armor. This kind of black even covered his head, and his body swelled up again. Originally, his height was 2.12 meters, but now he has directly reached the level of 3 meters. A dark and evil force emanated from him exuded from the body. Originally, relying on the jade of the four souls and Haki, Toguro had already reached the top level in the world, at least there was no problem in short-term confrontation with a strong man like Roger. And now he has become even stronger after eating the weirdo cells, a kind of tyrannical power emanates from him. He feels that his normal state is closer to the state of 100% use, and the upper limit has not been increased much, but until this at that time, he was actually the top powerhouse. Originally, he had been able to load the 100% mode for a long time, but he still couldn't load it for too long in the 100% of the 100% mode, so he could only be a top combat power for a short time. And now after eating the strange man's cells, he is confident to fight in the strongest state for more than half a day. Compared with the fact that he would die if he only used 120% mode at the beginning, he has undoubtedly grown too much now. Following Genichi's thought, Toguro, who had completed his transformation, changed again in form. At this moment, the back that was originally pitch black suddenly cracked open, and a pair of pitch black demon flesh wings appeared behind. Tuyuro let out a low voice, and dark flames gushed out of his body again. The flames seemed to come from the depths of hell, falling everywhere, full of evil feelings. Originally evil monsters were paired with monster cells that made people even more evil. The fusion of the two kinds of lives turned Tuyuro into the monster he is now. The black flame is the ability produced after he turned into a monster. Can fool other people's eyes. Who would associate such a monster with Toguro? Since Marine dispatched so many troops this time, how could he only rely on those superhuman aliens to act? Even if there is a devil dragon to disrupt the situation, it is still not enough, and now the total combat power of the devil finally meets his expectations. In the end, the only thing left is that he will draw a character with tens of millions of negative emotional points. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know what kind of strong man he will be, but he must draw a character with an upper limit of tens of millions. After all, if it is the lower limit, it is not much different from the upper limit of the million level. He might as well draw 10 million level cards. Furthermore, a million level character card seems to hold 3 kinds of power at the same time, and there is no rejection. After combining the superpowers obtained from the superpower training box, the jade fragments of the 4 souls and the monster cells, the devil dragon had already produced that kind of mixed rejection reaction, but Toyulu did not have such a reaction. In other words, the real level difference is actually here. A 100,000 level character card can hold up to 3 types of power, while a million level character card can hold more powers. Is it 4 or 5? In fact, as far as before, there doesn't seem to be much difference between character cards of hundreds of thousands of millions of levels, because they all exist under the rules of One Piece's worldview. Big guys can become stronger, even if the talent is not enough. Genichi can also use it. Some methods force them to rise up. For example, methods such as monster cells can force people to become much stronger. So as long as there is time, they will become the top combat power sooner or later, so he will arrange for Jian-Shin and Ashing to practice, because they have such talents, even if the initial combat power is not high, they will definitely become stronger later. However, the difference is now apparent. Although everyone can become stronger, the higher the upper limit of the character, because the 100,000 level can use up to 3 different worlds to become stronger, while the million level can use 4 ways to become stronger. 1 or 5, 10 million level is even more. That's why he is looking forward to the tens of millions of character cards. Maybe he can directly break the limit of the current world with tens of millions of characters. Although it can't reach the level of surpassing the world rules of One Piece, it should be no problem to become the strongest in the world. Characters beyond the limit of the One Piece world are very powerful, but if the limit of this world is higher, then aren't the characters beyond the limit even more powerful? The limit of this world has become stronger, which is also of great benefit to the 100 million character cards he drew. Genichi was looking forward to it in his heart, and at the same time manipulated Toguro to change back to his previous black armor form. After the flames and demon wings disappeared, he made him rush towards the pig cage city. Those gangsters have naturally been dominated by Makima and controlled by him, just to give Garp a pre-mission, and now they are useless, because Genichi is going to end himself. Tuyuro can also teleport, and his energy is extremely abundant. Among all his characters, Haki has the most abundant and the highest physical strength. It doesn't take long to reach the pigpen walled city from here. Therefore, in front of the village surrounded by mountains, a brand new eccentric Huyuro appeared. So when Garp was still waiting in the pigpen walled city, he suddenly frowned. "Benefactor, what's the matter?" Seeing Garp's expression, the woman said with some concern. "It seems that I was wrong not to let you move out." Garp actually said such a thing. Is he regretting it? Even he has no confidence. Of course not, it's just that he thought that in the next battle with that guy, the entire area might be destroyed. Read novel. No, not to mention the pigpen walled city, even the surrounding mountains might be knocked down. Because at this moment, he has already sensed a great pressure from the sky, as if a mountain is about to fall from the sky. He subconsciously shrank his muscles and tensed. There are not many people in this world who can give him such a huge pressure. There are indeed hidden dragons and crouching tigers on this island, it's so interesting. Garp stood up and said softly, "Hurry up, the farther you are from here, the better." His voice was very serious, so serious that the two of them had no room to refute. He was serious, not the same attitude as before. Garp originally thought that even if someone came, he would at most appear like number 3 when dealing with a group of ordinary people, but now. "I really look down on this pigpen walled city. What is it about this place that makes you care so much?" Garp felt that extremely evil feeling. This feeling also appeared when he saw the ice demon killing ring, so he knew it was a demon. In fact, the devil on this island should only be the devil dragon, because although the other side has the power of the devil, it is only a believer of the devil. They are actually still human beings in essence, otherwise the Black Order would have no reason not to act immediately, but now it seems that they also have demon partners. That's right, the Jade of the Four Souls has been shattered for such a long time, and many demons should have appeared in it. The Black Order has been destroying demons for a year, but there is no powerful demon that can make the world government care. And now, the one that is about to appear is undoubtedly such a powerful demon. The next moment, that person appeared. The moment he appeared, the world seemed to become hotter. At this moment, the sky is actually approaching dusk, much cooler than when Garp first arrived, but at this time it has become extremely hot, several times hotter than at the beginning. Garp saw a dark man appearing at the entrance of the pigpen walled city. Because the overly scorching air made the sight in front of him a lot more illusory, but Garp could still vaguely see the figure of the demon wearing a pitch black armor. This is a demon. Garp realized immediately when he saw him. This person exudes an aura similar to that of the ice and snow demon back then, and they are all so evil. It's just that at that time it was an ice-attributed demon, but now a fire-attributed one came. Looks like I've come to the right place. Garp grinned. The opponent is very strong, but he is also confident in his own strength, and since the opponent has dispatched such a powerful demon, does it mean that this place has enough value? Where did that kid Sengoku get the information from? Could it be from that Shishin again? Marine. After appearing in front of Garp, the demon said, "Participate in our incident, do you want to die?" His voice was full of air, and he came to a position not far from Garp in 2 steps. The two looked at each other, and there was a strange atmosphere immediately. Garp didn't make a move immediately, because he was waiting for everyone in the pigpen-walled city to retreat. If he fought with such a guy, then no one around would be able to survive. So he thought about delaying time and said, "You definitely won't say your real name, but what about your code name? I just saw a guy called Killing Ring not long ago, and he should be here for you, right?" "Swallow Buddha," said the eccentric 2-year-old. "The arrival of the Killing Ring was expected, but if you Marines intervene, you should think about whether you can afford such a price." Garp smiled and said, "Everyone is old, why are you still talking in such a childish tone? We've all come here. Did we play house games with you?" He seems to have roughly understood the current situation. Originally, the group of demon believers summoned a demon after the Jade of the Four Souls was shattered, and found something that the demon dragon cared about to lure him over. Sacrifice to summon that mysterious demon lord from hell. He can't call it Zero now. After all, judging from the current information, Zero is very likely to be just a code name among those demon believers. With number 3, then Zero may actually be Zero. And their arrival allowed the devil dragon to find a new way, giving him the capital to fight against these devil believers. Garp doesn't like to think very much, so he doesn't care much about the above, he cares more about this guy's name. "Tun Buddha," he complained, "that Sengoku guy must not get along with you. Is the name too straightforward?" Boom. The moment Garp's voice fell, Tunfo shot suddenly. The punch based on 2-year-old's body was terrifying in terms of strength and speed. This sudden punch might be enough to smash a mountain into pieces. However, his opponent is Garp, who is also a monster with the power to directly collapse the mountain. Garp's body is covered with a layer of blackness. There was a collision between fists and fists. Boom. The ground under their feet cracked in an instant, and exploded again, and a huge depression appeared in the ground in an instant. The two jumped out of the huge pit and separated again. The punch just now was just a test, and the next one was an unreserved, storm-like combo. Huyulu's body released a huge amount of evil energy, and under the transformation of the strange man's cells, the evil energy also turned into a blackness that seemed to be materialized, and immediately dyed the sky that was already almost dusk into darkness, as if he had arrived late at night. "Your strength doesn't look as good as Killing Ring," Garp said loudly. He punched Tunfo on the head, and Tunfo also punched him in the abdomen, and the two separated from the air immediately. He deliberately said such words to anger Tunfo, and he was telling the truth. After all, Tunfo has not yet entered his full state, and it is normal for his strength to be somewhat different from that of the eccentric golden lion. But the gap is not that big. A huge groove appeared in Garp's abdomen, and even the body covered in armed colors was punched by Tunfo, causing chaos inside his body. Although Tunfo was hit on the head even worse, but he is a monster, a weirdo, and the weakness of human beings is not his weakness. He flew out heavily and hit a big mountain directly, and actually went through it directly. Then the mountain collapsed, and amidst the rumbling sound, a large number of stones fell down, and a mountain that surrounded the town before was collapsed in an instant. This is their level of strength. Boom. An extreme force shook away a large amount of gravel, and at this moment, the power released by Tunfo shook a passageway. Tunfo stood in the innermost part and walked out slowly. "Say I'm not as good as Killing Ring." There was a sudden change in Tunfo's body. This change stopped Garp, who was about to continue attacking the past, and he looked at Tunfo's body carefully. "I really dare to say it." A deep sentence, followed by every step forward, immediately made the air stagnate and became more anxious. Garp's feet suddenly stepped on the ground, and this was because the previous pressure became heavier. The coercion that seemed to be materialized almost formed gravity, and Garp's body was washed by a kind of gravity. Afterwards, two demons' fleshy wings appeared behind the self-swallowing Buddha. The fleshy wings had a bewitching blood red in the dark, like scarlet flesh, which made people shudder. A flame, a black fire. It seems to be a flame that came to the world from the depths of hell. In the 100% of 100% mode, turned into a monster. Tunfo at this moment can be regarded as the strongest combat power in the world. Not only does it have the continuous combat power that was difficult to maintain before, but also in terms of the upper limit. He's stronger than the current Garp. Boom. There was a momentary shock that even the air was blown apart. He seemed to be saying something, but his body arrived in front of Garp much faster than the voice. Garp reacted quickly. He crossed his hands to block, and immediately blocked Tunfo's heavy punch in front of his chest. However, the power was beyond imagination, and his whole body was blown away like a cannonball. Garp twisted his body forcibly and kicked him in the head when Tunfo was chasing him, successfully preventing him from moving forward better. Be obedient, you cannot die, but if you are not obedient, you can only wait to die. At this time, what Tunfo said before reached Garp's ears. He was surprised by the improvement of the opponent's strength. He just stood firm but saw Tunfo moving forward again. This time, a long black sword was condensed with flames in his hand this time, and the burning black flames gathered together, and the evil exuded made Garp's goosebumps rise. If you want to kill me, you have to see if you are qualified enough. Garp also roared. Facing the sword swung by Tunfo, he didn't dodge or evade, but pushed forward with the fist wrapped around armament hockey. The released armament hockey made his fist collide extremely strongly before it touched the black sword. Thinkers. In an instant, the entire black sky exploded due to this collision, and the surrounding villages and towns and even the mountains rumbled at this moment, as if a huge earthquake had occurred. Black flames and broken ground spread from behind Garp and Tunfo respectively. The collision of huge forces made the sky even more gloomy. The bursting darkness quickly filled up and turned into a huge Uzumaki. Tens of miles away, Sengoku, who has rushed to this country, is leading Ah Xing towards the Pigpen walled city. He has received news from Marine that Vice Admiral Garp has entered the Pigpen walled city. Sengoku scolded that fool secretly, but he could only speed up his own speed. At this moment, he raised his head suddenly, and seeing the sky in front of him suddenly turned into pitch black, his complexion suddenly changed. Ah Xing, I have to go first. Sengoku said to Ah Xing with an ugly expression that Ah Xing's body hadn't recovered yet, so he was going to take a step first. Before leaving, he entrusted Ah Xing to several Marine Vice Admirals. Saul, protect Ah Xing. Saul is a giant Vice Admiral, the Marine Vice Admiral who later protected Robin under Buster Call, because he is a giant, and his lifespan is surprisingly long, so he is already a Marine Vice Admiral at this time. As a giant, there is no need to say more about its combat power. After hearing Sengoku's words, he nodded and hugged Ah Xing. Don't worry, I won't let anyone hurt Ah Xing. After finishing speaking, Sengoku directly accelerated and rushed towards the battlefield frantically. The dark clouds in the sky that would tear apart from time to time, and even the tremors that reached here told Sengoku what level of battle was going on there. According to previous information, the only thing that can put Garp in a hard fight in this country is the killing ring. But according to the information, the power of the killing ring is ice and snow, but at this moment he felt a sense of heat. Sengoku gritted his teeth and moved forward more quickly. When the surrounding environment became narrower and narrower, and even a barren mountain appeared in front of him, he only saw a mountain in front of him suddenly shattered. Garp's body flew out from the broken mountain, but Garp's condition was obviously not good at the moment. He barely stabilized his body, and exhaled after seeing Sengoku coming. That guy Tunfo is unexpectedly difficult. Before he finished speaking, Tunfo's figure wrapped in black flames flew out of the ruins of the mountain in front of him. He still held the black flame sword in his hand and carried it with a bang. With the explosion of the air, it was cut down. Shockwave. Garp didn't make a shot because Sengoku was right next to him. After seeing the black flame sword, Sengoku immediately entered the form of a big Buddha, and directly stirred the air in front of him with a palm, turning into a huge shock wave and blasting towards Tunfo. Tunfo, who was in the fierce battle with Garp, didn't seem to expect Sengoku's arrival, and collided with the shock wave released by the Buddha in a somewhat surprised situation. The forces of the two parties exploded in the air, directly blasting a huge hole in the air. The light of dusk came in through the void in the sky, and Tunfo descended from the sky, facing Garp and Sengoku alone. Here we go again. The most classic combination, Garp and Sengoku. The combination of Garp Sengoku is invincible in this world, neither Golden Lion nor Bullet are their opponents, and now in front of them is Tunfo. But the gap is not that big. A huge groove appeared in Garp's abdomen, and even the body covered in armed colors was punched by Tunfo, causing chaos inside his body. Although Tunfo was hit on the head even worse, but he is a monster, a weirdo, and the weakness of human beings is not his weakness. He flew out heavily and hit a big mountain directly, and actually went through it directly. Then the mountain collapsed, and amidst the rumbling sound, a large number of stones fell down, and a mountain that surrounded the town before was collapsed in an instant. This is their level of strength. Boom! An extreme force shook away a large amount of gravel, and at this moment, the power released by Tunfo shook a passageway. Tunfo stood in the innermost part and walked out slowly. Say I'm not as good as Killing Ring. There was a sudden change in Tunfo's body. This change stopped Garp, who was about to continue attacking the past, and he looked at Tunfo's body carefully. I really dare to say it. A deep sentence, followed by every step forward, immediately made the air stagnate and became more anxious. Garp's feet suddenly stepped on the ground, and this was because the previous pressure became heavier. The coercion that seemed to be materialized almost formed gravity, and Garp's body was washed by a kind of gravity. Afterwards, two demons' fleshy wings appeared behind the self-swallowing Buddha. The fleshy wings had a bewitching blood red in the dark, like scarlet flesh, which made people shudder. A flame, a black fire. It seems to be a flame that came to the world from the depths of hell. In the 100% of 100% mode, turned into a monster, Tunfo at this moment can be regarded as the strongest combat power in the world. Not only does it have the continuous combat power that was difficult to maintain before, but also in terms of the upper limit. He's stronger than the current Garp. Boom! The momentary sudden rush, even the air was blown away. He seemed to be saying something, but his body arrived in front of Garp much faster than the voice. Garp reacted quickly, he crossed his hands to block, and immediately swallowed Fona blocked his chest with a heavy fist. However, the power was beyond imagination, and his whole body was blown away like a cannonball. Garp twisted his body forcibly and kicked him in the head when Tunfo was chasing him, successfully preventing him from moving forward better. Be obedient, you cannot die, but if you are not obedient, you can only wait to die. At this time, what Tunfo said before reached Garp's ears. He was surprised by the improvement of the opponent's strength. He just stood firm but saw Tunfo moving forward again. This time, a long black sword was condensed with flames in his hand this time, and the burning black flames gathered together, and the evil exuded made Garp's goosebumps rise. If you want to kill me, you have to see if you are qualified enough. Garp also roared. Facing the sword swung by Tunfo, he didn't dodge or evade, but pushed forward with the fist wrapped around armament hockey, and the released armament hockey made his fist touch the black. The sword had already produced a very strong collision. In an instant, the entire black sky exploded due to this collision, and the surrounding villages and towns and even the mountains rumbled at this moment, as if a huge earthquake had occurred. Black flames and broken ground spread from behind Garp and Tunfo respectively. The collision of huge forces made the sky even more gloomy. The bursting darkness quickly filled up and turned into a huge Uzumaki. Tens of miles away, Sengoku, who has rushed to this country, is leading Ah Xing towards the Pigpen walled city. He has received news from Marine that Vice Admiral Garp has entered the Pigpen walled city. Sengoku scolded that fool secretly, but he could only speed up his own speed. At this moment, he raised his head suddenly, and seeing the sky in front of him suddenly turned into pitch black, his complexion suddenly changed. Ah Xing, I have to go first. Sengoku said to Ah Xing with an ugly expression that Ah Xing's body hadn't recovered yet, so he was going to take a step first. Before leaving, he entrusted Ah Xing to several Marine Vice Admirals. Saul, protect Ah Xing. Saul is a giant Vice Admiral, the Marine Vice Admiral who later protected Robin under Buster Call, because he is a giant, and his lifespan is surprisingly long, so he is already a Marine Vice Admiral at this time. As a giant, there is no need to say more about its combat power. After hearing Sengoku's words, he nodded and hugged Ah Xing. Don't worry, I won't let anyone hurt Ah Xing. After finishing speaking, Sengoku directly accelerated and rushed towards the battlefield frantically. The dark clouds in the sky that would tear apart from time to time, and even the tremors that reached here told Sengoku what level of battle was going on there. According to previous information, the only thing that can cause Garp to fight hard in this country is the killing ring, but according to the information, the power of killing ring is ice and snow, but at this moment he feels a sense of heat. Sengoku gritted his teeth and moved forward more quickly. When the surrounding environment became narrower and narrower, and even a barren mountain appeared in front of him, he only saw a mountain in front of him suddenly shattered. Garp's body flew out from the broken mountain, but Garp's condition was obviously not good at the moment. He barely stabilized his body, and exhaled after seeing Sengoku coming. That guy Tunfo is unexpectedly difficult. Before he finished speaking, Tunfo's figure wrapped in black flames flew out of the ruins of the mountain in front of him. He still held the black flame sword in his hand and carried it with a bang. With the explosion of the air, it was cut down. Shockwave. Garp didn't make a move because Sengoku was right beside him. After seeing the black flame sword, Sengoku immediately entered the form of a Buddha. With one palm, the air in front of him was directly stirred up, turning into a huge shock wave and blasting towards him. Swallow Buddha. Tunfo, who was in the fierce battle with Garp, didn't seem to expect Sengoku's arrival, and collided with the shock wave released by the Buddha in a somewhat surprised situation. The forces of the two parties exploded in the air, directly blasting a huge hole in the air. The light of dusk came in through the void in the sky, and Tunfo descended from the sky, facing Garp and Sengoku alone. Here we go again. The most classic combination, Garp and Sengoku. The combination of Garp-Sengoku is invincible in this world, neither Golden Lion nor Bullet are their opponents, and now in front of them is Tunfo. Chapter 91. Boom. In an instant, one side of the sky seemed to be on fire, and the flames that burned the clouds in the sky were still black. Such a terrifying scene is probably only seen on a handful of battlefields in the New World. The Battle of the Valley of the Gods at the beginning, and the Battle of the Giant Monster Kraken later, and now these three people seem to want to reproduce the horror of the past, and a depressive and huge momentum erupted in this area. Confronting the darkness is Sengoku's Buddha's light. The huge golden body of Buddha drives the dazzling golden light to fight against the black flames, as if to bring a ray of light to the world. For Garp and Sengoku, Tunfo is a powerful demon that finally appeared. If they can catch him and get some information from him, they may be able to quickly wipe out other demons and demon believers on the island. When Garp dealt with Shaji before, he didn't fight desperately, nor did he stop him from leaving, because he knew that it would be difficult for him alone to deal with a strong man who wanted to leave wholeheartedly. But now that Sengoku is here, things are very different. Garp and Sengoku are already strong. If they join forces, the world will be almost unstoppable. Therefore, when the two get together, they have already made up their minds to catch this Tunfo. Flame ends earth. In the terrifying power confrontation, Tunfo moved suddenly, and the black flame sword in his hand fell down instantly, as if driving the fire burning with endless clouds from the sky to descend. Sengoku pushed out his palm in the form of a giant Buddha, and collided with Tunfo's sword, and Garp directly appeared in front of Tunfo, and pointed out that it was the finger pistol of Marine 6 styles. Garp's strength depends entirely on his powerful body. He didn't eat devil fruit, so he trained his body parts to be comparable to any demon fruit power. Armament Haki, who is extremely powerful, condensed in one finger, and then blasted out. Tunfo, who was fighting against Sengoku, was hit by Garp's sudden shot, and his whole body was directly driven backward by the huge impact, passing through the pile of mountain ruins that was directly smashed by Garp, and flew further. Garp and Sengoku chased after them, but a large number of black flames rushed towards them. Tun Buddha, who was flying upside down, shook his hands forward, and the large number of black flames suddenly shrank, trapping the two of them in a huge black circle in an instant, among the balls. After Garp shattered the black flame with a punch, a large number of black horses shattered to the ground, burning the ground, and Tunfo had regained his footing at this moment. The regrouped two sides moved forward again in an instant, fighting continuously in this world surrounded by mountains. The surrounding mountains were smashed one after another, and the pig cage city was also destroyed. Their battle at this level is very difficult for human beings. The buildings built are already like natural disasters. Boom boom boom. Amidst the vibrations of the earth and the sky, the three figures kept interlacing, and the black flames ignited the mountains farther away from the battlefield of the three of them. As Garp punched Tunfo in the chest, his back directly scattered. The air was blown, and the whole person blasted directly into the depths of the mountains. Just the remaining strength of this punch caused Tunfo to smash into the 2 mountains behind him, and he didn't stop until he hit the 3rd mountain and knocked out a large piece of the mountain wall like a spider web. He broke free from the strange force Garp was exerting on him, slid down the wall, and fell to the ground. Fighting together with Garp Sengoku at full strength to such an extent, he already felt a sense of inadequacy, and at this moment the 2 Kajin had chased after him again. This is also a place surrounded by mountains, but there is no pig cage city in the center, and a mountain peak in one direction was smashed by Tunfo, revealing a huge gap. Garp and Sengoku stood in the gap, seeming to surround Tunfo in the center. However, when they stepped into the land surrounded by mountains, they suddenly felt something was wrong. Tunfo stood in front of them without saying anything. He was seriously injured, but at this moment he didn't panic at all. Garp and Sengoku suddenly flinched, because in the next moment, they already felt something. Then, both of them looked up. From the top of the mountains, on the top of each mountain, a figure suddenly appeared. Those figures all had a 3rd eye, and tentacles appeared on their foreheads. At the most critical moment, almost everyone swelled up exactly the same. At this moment, with their hands behind their backs, they looked down with a unified posture and a unified movement. Simply, it's like it was carved out of a mold. Their indifferent faces revealed an aura that did not belong to humans, and in an instant the entire valley was filled with a strange aura. Garp and Sengoku didn't move, because at this moment there was a huge pressure from above. Sengoku didn't know it when he first arrived, but Garp knew that this was the power released by the number 3 back then. At the same time, this force was released. Although it was not used as an attack, it made the air around them heavier, and the offensive and defensive momentum was different at this moment. If there was only Tunfo alone, or if there were only those 3-eyed people above, they would all have an absolute advantage. However, at this moment, the cooperation of the 2 opponents has already suppressed them in terms of strength. So, this is a trap. Under such tremendous pressure, Garp said, "Or is this your lair?" Tunfo didn't answer Garp's question, but said slowly, "Originally, I wanted to make that boy who had practiced Tathagata Palm as a sacrifice, but it turns out that you, Marine Admiral, who has the golden body of Buddha, are more suitable as a sacrifice. It seems that Zero really appeared in this world before that. My long-cherished wish has already been fulfilled one step ahead." What are you doing? So you are not in the same group? Sengoku was secretly surprised when he heard Tunfo's words. Judging from Tunfo's words, his long-cherished wish is not to let Zero appear in this world. Tunfo and those 3-eyed demon believers mentioned by Garp are clearly together. Is it a cooperative relationship? Because Tunfo just appeared, Sengoku didn't quite understand what was going on, but on the surface he said, "Are you another demon lord's subordinate?" Because he mentioned sacrifices, talking about sacrifices is nothing more than the same as the devil dragon did before. Open the hell passage to summon the demons in it, and if a demon at the level of Tunfo can make his long-cherished wish, he can only think of it at the level of the demon lord. What kind of expression is this? However, words that made Sengoku feel puzzled came out of Tunfo's mouth. The black flame sword in Tunfo's hand was still burning, and there was a trace of doubt in his mouth. "Aren't you his subordinate? Didn't D. Shishin order you to come and snatch back the Tathagata Palm and the jade fragments of the 4 souls?" Sengoku flinched, and immediately shouted, "What did you say?" "That's right, it seems that you still don't know anything, or that his current strength has not recovered to the point where he can communicate freely with you." Tunfo raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and took a step forward. One step made the pressure in the air heavier. "Okay then, let me tell you." He raised the black flame greatsword, facing Sengoku and Garp sideways, and said at the same time, "My lord's recovery requires the Buddha to offer sacrifices, so I cooperated with them who have the clues of the Buddha. Why do you think that little ghost can escape from our hands? It's just that we discovered your arrival, so I just gave him up for a better sacrifice." Sengoku didn't say anything, and he didn't blame D. Shishin in his heart, because he asked a lot of things directly, and didn't give D. Shishin any room to play, but he didn't regret it very much. After all, Didn't Tunfo tell the information that he couldn't get from Di Shishan at the beginning? I needed the Buddha as a sacrifice, and they needed the devil dragon as a sacrifice, so we chose to cooperate. It's as simple as that. While Tunfo spoke, he slammed a sword, and countless deaths were thrown from the black flame sword. Death and darkness followed closely, pressing towards Sengoku. Sengoku just wanted to fight back, but the huge impact from above gathered together at this moment, forming a continuous offensive like overlapping waves. Before he had time to release the shock wave, he had a stalemate with that force. At this time Garp stood up, he punched a pitch-black fist, and the tyrannical armament hockey blasted on the black flame, causing the black flame to scatter immediately, but he himself was also blown away by the remaining power. Naturally, one person with superpowers is no match for Admiral, nor are 2 or 3 people, but there are 9 people gathered together at this moment, and they are almost the same 9 people in every way. With their joint efforts, the psychic power was entangled, not only suppressing Sengoku, but even Garp was also affected. Today's eccentric superpowers can actually be regarded as the level of the cadres of the royal group, but they all have exactly the same ability nature, so when they join forces, a kind of superposition of power is produced. The power released at the same time combined with the existence of Shengtun Buddha suppressed both Garp and Sengoku. It's just that they are not strong enough alone after all, so Sengoku and Garp quickly found a way to break the situation, that is to forcefully break through the swallowing Buddha and kill those 3-eyed people. The moment Garp was blasted out by Heian, Sengoku had already broken through the power blockade and shot a shock wave, blocking the Tun Buddha who was about to rush over. Although the power had dropped a lot after the power blockade, he still blocked it. Swallow Buddha for a moment. At this very moment, Garp who was blown away forcibly twisted his body, trampled on the air and rushed towards the mountain above. The only difficulty is that the group of superpowers are located on the top of the mountain, making it difficult for Garp and the others to attack. It would be easier to deal with them if they had the ability of shock fruit, but unfortunately both of them prefer close combat. After all, under the pressure of this thought power, it is difficult for them to smash the mountain directly, so Garp can only forcefully go up against the huge pressure above. The strength gap is obvious at this time. Although the 9 superpowers can suppress Garp and Sengoku, it is difficult to really hurt them. At this moment, the 9 people immediately concentrated all their strength on Garp, and Sengoku was able to deal with Tunfo with all his strength, but the situation was still severe. Because even if Tunfo used up a lot of physical strength in the previous battle with Garp, as long as he can maintain his strength in this form, he can perfectly display his strength and suppress Sengoku severely. Garp is restrained by the superimposed telekinetic power of 9 superpowers. At this moment, it is a bit like the 8 heroes in the red sheath against Kaido. Not as uneven in strength as the 8 heroes, the upper limit is not as good as the cat and dog transformed into a moon lion, but the lower limit is more stable, and there is one more person, and it has the advantage of perfect coordination and geographical advantage of the same source of power. The power of superpowers does not have the consumption of distance transmission. After all, it is the telekinetic force activated remotely. From this point of view, they occupy a remote position and they have an advantage. Neither of the 2 parties can achieve results in a short period of time. It depends on whether Garp breaks through the shackles of telekinetic power first, or Tunfo can defeat Sengoku first. However, when their battle was approaching the peak, a golden light burst out from the original pig cage city. Quote? The 2 parties who were fighting were stunned by the golden light at the same time, and the fluctuation disappeared quickly in the next second, as if something was activated for a moment by the energy generated by their battle just now. But after the golden light appeared, Tun Buddha abandoned Sengoku almost immediately, and directly rushed out of Sengoku's body at the cost of bearing the palm of Sengoku's golden Buddha. Sengoku. Seeing this scene, the 2 immediately understood that the golden light was definitely something important, and Garp couldn't help but yelled at Sengoku. Sengoku understood what Garp meant and immediately went after Tun Buddha. However, the opportunity has been lost, and the speed is much worse than that of Tunfo, and it seems that Tunfo is about to enter the previous pig cage city. However, at this time Sengoku suddenly became less eager. What are you doing? Garp's voice came from behind. He did not continue to fight with those 3-eyed people, because he knew that the other party had the ability to teleport, and it was meaningless to fight them. Except when it is necessary to fight them to the death in the final decisive battle, other times they run away after hitting each other. Seeing the change of expression on Sengoku's face, Garp couldn't help asking, "If you don't hurry up, Tun Buddha will be here soon." That should be a fragment of the Jade of the Four Souls. If they get it, it will be even more unfavorable to our situation. The other party held a fragment of the Jade of the Four Souls that the Devil Dragon needed, and they had been asking the gangsters to search for the treasure of the Pigpen Walled City. It should also be a fragment of the Jade of the Four Souls, which is the golden light that appeared now. That thing should be related to the Emperor Chakra that Sengoku has been talking about before, and it is also related to the sacrifices that Tun Buddha will use. If they get it, then they will lose the opportunity again. It's useless to worry, the piece of Jade of the Four Souls has been snatched away by the Devil Dragon and Killing Ring. Sengoku looked very bad, and his information came from his phone bug. It was a team of Marines brought by Sengoku before, and now they informed him of the news of the Pigpen Walled City. When Sengoku Admiral came, he ordered us to stand by in this pig cage city. The original pig cage walled city, a simple small village, has now become a ruin. The black flame seems to be burning forever, not only burning, but also a kind of corrosion. Not only the houses and buildings in the Pigpen Walled City, but also the surrounding soil and rocks, the surrounding broken mountains, and even the clouds in the sky have that kind of black fire. And in such a dark world, a team of Marines came here. Ah Xing wanted to move on, but was stopped by Marine Vice Admiral Saul, who said to Ah Xing, "So I can't let you go on. Let go of me, I'm not a Marine, I don't need to obey your orders." Ah Xing originally wanted to struggle to get out, but after all, he was seriously injured, and Saul was a giant, so it was difficult to break free from Saul's palm. This world is very hot and dark, and the flames in the dark world are a bit unreal, and the Marines don't want to stay in this place either. But since they are soldiers, they must obey orders, and compared to Admiral's battlefield, what is their temperature? The battle rumbled in the distance, and even here one could clearly feel the sense of power generated by the collision there. They longed for the power that could cause that shock in their hearts, and at this moment a strong light suddenly came from that direction. It was the golden body of Sengoku Admiral. The Marines were even more excited in their hearts. For them, Admiral was their goal. Although I haven't been able to see Admiral's battle with my own eyes at this moment, I can clearly feel the strength even though they are so far apart. And at the moment of this bright light, 1,000 feet of black flame suddenly rose in the distant sky, as if it directly enveloped and swallowed a quarter of the sky over there. At this moment, a heavy pressure fell on them, as if such a distance made people feel flustered. Here. Is it really safe? The moment the two forces collided seemed to stir up a special kind of ripple, and at the next moment something unbelievable happened. What they were in was the ruins of the pig cage walled city, and at this moment, a golden light burst out of the ruins directly into the sky. The golden light was full of a sense of sacredness, just like the light released from Sengoku Admiral before, and the moment the golden light appeared, the surrounding air suddenly became cold, as if it had dropped by more than 10 degrees. Originally, there were a lot of black flames around here, and these black flames transpired the entire space, which was somewhat illusory, but at this moment, all the scorching heat disappeared, leaving only a kind of coldness that seemed to freeze the soul. And those black flames that seemed to never go out were the first to bear the brunt. Ice crystals appeared directly on the outline of the fire, freezing all those flames. Freeze the flame, and the next moment, they were the ones who froze. Even Marine's giant Vice Admiral Saul's body became extremely stiff. A layer of ice covered his body, making the giant unable to move. The next moment, endless ice and snow fell one after another, and Sha Ring appeared in the ice and snow. At this moment, he did not have the two ice and snow long knives in his hands. The cold that freezes the soul. Standing in front of the golden light, he stretched out a finger, and then a crystal shard fell from the sky. Jade fragments of the Four Souls. Saul was startled. He desperately wanted to break free from the cold ice on his body, but he couldn't resist this power far beyond his own. This coldness even wanted to enter his body. It was going to directly freeze his heart to stop beating. In an instant, Killing Ring holding the jade fragment of Four Souls appeared in front of them. Go and tell Sengoku and Garp that this piece of jade of the Four Souls is in my hand. If you want this piece, meet me at the place where I first came. Sha Jia said indifferently, at least for now, we still have a common enemy. Zero has found a special person who seems to appear in this world. Once he comes to the world according to their plan, then both you and us are equivalent to fail. Saul couldn't react, and Killing Ring didn't need to react, he just turned around and faced the direction of the previous battlefield. Two knives appeared in his hands. Sha Ring took a step forward, and said softly at the same time. Kill half oblique shadow, sword wind does not leave anyone. Take one step forward, and the next moment he has appeared in the distance, and at this time, the distant sky has been completely swallowed by black flames. Someone is coming. However, in just an instant, half of the sky in that infinitely dark scorching hell was suddenly dyed the color of snow, and the two forces of extreme cold and extreme heat collided with each other, immediately spreading the influence outward. Just like the former border city in the north has now become an environment of perennial snowfall, this barren mountainous land is suddenly infected by that force. The power of ice and snow spreads in one direction, and the power of black inflammation spread in one direction. In the blink of an eye, this land of mountains was permanently changed by the sudden collision, from the side of the pig cage walled city into a world of extremely cold ice and snow, and on the other side of Sengoku and Garp who were about to rush over it turned into a scorching black flame world. Then they suddenly had no other movement after this collision, and the previous collision caused a huge Uzumaki to appear in the air. There was no figure in the Uzumaki, only the Marines with blank faces left. Both Tunfo and Shaji have left. So when Sengoku and Garp came to the former pigpen walled city, the Marines were already terribly cold, and only the giant Vice Admiral Saul was able to resist the cold. Unexpectedly, this time, it was actually missed by the Devil Dragon. Hearing what happened here, Garp couldn't help saying, Marine has always picked up other people's faults, and whenever others can pick up Marine's faults, this world is really crazy. But Killing Ring is right, we now have a common enemy. Sengoku said in a deep voice, compared to the Devil Dragon, the Devil believers on this island are more terrifying. They have been operating in the darkness of this country for an unknown number of years, and they are more dangerous than the Devil Dragon with the help of Killing Ring, many. What's more, what they want to summon are two demon lords, and one of them has come to an end. They must not be allowed to succeed. What's the point of cooperating with the demon dragon? Sengoku doesn't care about temporary gains and losses, maybe this is the justice of the world. What's more, the world government itself has a precedent for doing this, the Black Order. Couldn't it also be evil? The 7 warlords of the sea system of using evil to deal with evil was also created by him in the future when he was the Marine Marshal. Now he is cooperating with the Devil Dragon to deal with the Tunfo side, and he does not have any psychological pressure. The demon believers have to summon Zero, and Tunfo has to summon his master, and the two parties are even more mixed together, making Sengoku a bit confused now. Now he desperately hopes to see D Shishin again, but unfortunately judging from the previous time interval, it may not be possible in a short time. Shing, I'm sorry. Seeing that Garp had no objection, Sengoku pointed at Shing again, and he said with some shame, because of our battle, the pig cage wall was destroyed. It's all the fault of those demons. Shing said in a low voice, everyone knows that taking me in who was hunted down at the time would not end well, but they still did that. Why do good people in this world always have no candy? Woolen cloth. Everyone is obviously just ordinary people, and they don't even know what the jade fragments of the 4 souls are, but they will be destroyed because of this thing. Zing's words made everyone fall into silence, whether it was Sengoku Garp or the ordinary Marines, because the word, justice, was written on their backs, but can they carry out their own justice in this chaotic world? Woolen cloth. Hearing Zing's words, the word, justice, behind them seemed to be crying. A lot of people have evacuated before the battle started, but they are all ordinary people. After a moment of silence, Garp also sighed a little and said, I will take my men to look for them, I hope I can see them again. Quote. It was because of this that Garp didn't speak much before. It would be fine if it was other times, but this time the demise of the pigpen walled city can be said to have a direct relationship with him. According to Tunfo, they deliberately released this star as a bait, in order to bring Sengoku over as a sacrifice for Tunfo to summon his master, and the matching sacrifice should be hidden in a pig cage, the jade fragment of the 4 souls of the walled city. That is to say, to call the demon lord in hell, a jade fragment of the four souls corresponding to the original demon and an object with a certain relationship are required as sacrifices. For example, Tun Buddha, from the name, you know that you are the enemy of Buddha, so you use the big Buddha as a sacrifice. Judging from the current situation, it is temporarily impossible for Tunfo to summon his master, but Zero's arrival has come to an end, and they may be ready to deal with a demon lord. Xing, do you want to join Marine? Sengoku suddenly said at this time, which made Garp a little surprised. The same is true for Xing, but before he could say anything, Sengoku said again, why do good people have no candy, right? Then you want to create a world where good people can have candy. Be a Marine and carry out your justice. Xing said softly, if there is no reward for good and evil, there must be selfishness in the universe. Nowadays, the world is not at fault with any person, king, or force, but with the universe. What a rebellious remark this is. If celestial dragons hears it, they will probably shoot Xing directly. There must be selfishness in the universe. What is the universe that Xing is talking about? Of course they are, but everyone present did not say anything. This is what everyone knew, but even if they knew there was a problem, the patriotic education and traditional concepts they received from childhood made them continue to be a Marine. Although the universe is broken, they still don't want the universe to collapse completely, and the world will inevitably be in chaos. Even if it is a bad order, it is still order. They don't want to see the world of rampage, so they want to join Marine, and want to maintain their own justice under their own ability, but it is too difficult to do this from now on. Xing is a young man with great potential, and he has a relationship with Buddha or Di Shishin. He also has justice in his heart, so Sengoku invited him to join Marine. The world may not be irreversible. Either destroy it from the outside, or change it from the inside. To be a Marine is to take such a path. The current Sengoku is still ambitious, otherwise it would be impossible to awaken Conqueror's Haki. When he becomes Marine Admiral for a longer time and sees more and more darkness, he may change again, his passion will be obliterated by time, and even the unreasonable orders of the 5 elders in front of him will only be angry say a few words. But at least now, he is still young. When he was young, he was always ambitious. Young people always believed that they could change the world. Therefore, he sent an invitation to Xing. Come with us and change the world. Xing looked at Sengoku, his mouth squirmed, but he didn't speak. Sengoku didn't say anything, just waited for his answer. Garp watched from the side, also not speaking. He doesn't even know who Xing is, but it's definitely not an ordinary person to make Sengoku think so highly of him. Now that the world is in turmoil, Marine really needs to replenish some combat power, just relying on a few of them. It's not enough. In a moment of silence, Xing finally nodded and agreed to Sengoku's invitation. He joined Marine, which was what Genichi was supposed to do in the first place. Now that Sengoku invites him, he naturally wants to agree, but he always has to be reserved before agreeing. It's just that when you join Marine, you must start as a small soldier. As Admiral, Sengoku has the right to directly let Marine join, and even has the right to directly give Xing a school-level military rank, but Xing still decided to start as a big soldier. Anyway, on this island, he has a lot of chances of being promoted. Xing's strength is very strong, and now it is not inferior to Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral or even stronger. After all, there is a huge gap between Vice Admiral and Admiral in Marine itself, and it is not like the royal team that has many senior cadres. Genichi's arrangement for Xing is to become Admiral, or at least a Marine General who has a similar position to Admiral. After all, Marine is actually a very large and comprehensive organization, and there are many different departments besides regular soldiers. This is not difficult given Xing's talent. Xing wanted to follow Garp here to search for the survivors of Pigpen Walled City, but Sengoku took him away on the grounds that the Devil Dragon might have more information and needed to communicate with Xing that had not been completed before. Killing Ring said that he wanted Sengoku and Garp to go to the Ice and Snow capital to meet him, but since he had already decided to cooperate with him, it didn't matter if Sengoku went alone, and Garp stayed here as he said before. A battle is over. A new round of operations has started on the Marine side, and on the Devil's side, in the headquarters. It seems that you have already made a decision. In the underground of another mountainous place, in the dim underground world, Number 3 said as he watched Bullet walking in through the door. The underground world extends in all directions, and they created an underground dark base with their thoughts, just like a village. Since Bullet was brought back by them, they didn't do anything to him, and didn't even restrict his freedom. Apart from the core, superpower training box of this underground world, his actions were not restricted anywhere. Not long ago, he even took him to see the battle between Tunfo and Sengoku Garp. I want to become stronger, Bullet said in a deep voice. Give that devil cell to me, and I will control him with my own will. The 8-year-old Bullet has an indomitable will. He said to number 3 who rescued him from Garp, as long as I eat that thing, my strength should become stronger. Of course, number 3 said calmly. However, what I want to tell you is that you have committed a great crime in this country. It's fine if you are completely dominated by the will of the devil, but even if you can maintain yourself, the only way is to cooperate with us. However, Bullet had decided before that he would join the Black Order later. Bullet, who was only 8 years old, actually only had a relatively vague concept of the Black Order, only knowing that it was in a hostile relationship with the devil. But now he wants to use the power of the devil. However, for Bullet, he doesn't care about the attribute of power, because he controls power, not power controls him. He is a monster who has won the highest medal on the battlefield. How could he not know this? In fact, is there any difference between so-called devil cells and devil fruit? It's just a tool to make people stronger. Cowardly for the attribute of strength, for Bullet, is the equivalent of giving up because of the so-called position when he sees the enemy's stronger weapon when he has no bullets in his gun on the battlefield. Power is a weapon, and a weapon is power. Should we give up using the opponent's weapon because of different positions? What nonsense. He, Bullet, doesn't care about these things. He was almost killed by those young soldiers because of his weakness that day. After that incident, Bullet's pursuit of power reached a pathological level, especially when he saw several strong men with his own eyes. The battle of the battle made him envious and fascinated. He also wants to reach that state. After eating the devil's fruit, we are considered companions. You can go anywhere except the area where the most central zero is located. Number 3 said to him, and at the same time took out a weirdo cell. This does look a bit like devil fruit, and the name is called a devil cell. Could it have something to do with devil fruit? Bullet's thoughts diverged. He took the weird cell from number 3's hand, looked at this weird food. It looked a bit disgusting, but Bullet has been in the battlefield since he was a child, and he has far surpassed the acceptance of ordinary people at the age of 8 ability. No matter how curious the scene is, he has seen it. He opened his mouth and swallowed the devil cell in one gulp. Suddenly, a strange force surged out of his body, flowing wantonly in his body, destroying and transforming it. Bullet held his face with his hands, blue veins throbbing on his face. His body also had a slight twitch, and then his body changed in shape. The figure swelled twice, and the same darkness covered the body, making his face look like a strange beast, and 2 sharp sword-like structures appeared behind the shoulders and ankles, but the ones behind the shoulders were more long, very short at the ankle and curved upwards. At the same time, Bullet only felt a huge power appearing with the transformation of the body. The power was so powerful that he was a little intoxicated by it, but at the same time, Bullet also felt that something was happening in his brain variety. It's as if the brain is secreting some emotional anesthetic, which makes Bullet feel indifferent to his own emotions, and seems to make his already indifferent morals disappear completely. Is this the price of using demon power? The corners of Bullet's mouth subconsciously turned up. He actually didn't care much about morality, otherwise he wouldn't be able to directly destroy the entire country in the future, but he also hated others taking something from him, especially his own. Quote. His body began to shake. If he completely succumbed to the power of this demon, what is the strongest? If you become a devil, how can you meet that woman? Bullet gritted his teeth and drank suddenly. All the devilish features on his body began to disappear again. Who? Bullet breathed heavily. The forced confrontation with the demons will just now made him exhausted physically and mentally, but he was really happy. He did it. He successfully suppressed the demon's power and returned himself to the human state. Can do it again. Demon eyes. So strong. Bullet took a deep breath and couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement at his current strength. Thank you for providing me with such strength. Bullet grinned. But what if I don't want to cooperate with you? There was no sincerity in his words, and he kept looking at 3, expecting his reaction. Of course not. However, number 3 said flatly, as if he had guessed Bullet's reaction long ago. As I said before, you can only choose one path in this country to cooperate with us, and this is not out of your will. 3's body appeared behind Bullet in an instant, and he opened the door and walked out, talking at the same time. It's from our will. For a moment, Bullet felt dizzy for a while. At this moment, there seemed to be some monsters whispering in his mind, and he was a little unstable when he stood up. He had a ferocious face, closed his eyes tightly, clasped his hands tightly on his face, and his 5 fingers even got into his head. He couldn't open his eyes, because the moment he opened his eyes, he saw a huge ghost virtual image appearing in front of him. 1 centimeter away, those evil eyes were looking at him like this. You are the new number 0. 0. Bullet vaguely seemed to hear the whispers of a mountain-like demon, and then all the phantoms and whispers slowly disappeared without a trace. After an unknown period of time, his hands dropped naturally, panting heavily, his body was already dripping with sweat. What was that just now? Is it the devil's will contained in the devil's cells? That rascal. That's right, when number 3 first appeared, he also said that he was a qualified body, so did he mean that he wanted to be the host who descended from the devil? They want to eat that demon cell by themselves. In order to establish a connection with that demon, it should be like this. Quote. Let's see if you can devour me. Bullet didn't regret it at all. This was something he expected a long time ago. Although it was the first time he saw a real demon, who hasn't heard many stories about demons. It can only be said that it is too normal for the devil to do such a thing, and he has long been mentally prepared. But it is not that simple to control his body. He turned around, opened the door as well, and left the room. There are underground passages extending in all directions outside. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that there was a demon kingdom underground in Jaltsburg. Tun Buddha. As soon as he walked out, he saw a person walking on the road. Bullet shrank and looked at that person. He is indeed the black flame demon Tunfo who fought against Garp Sengoku not long ago. At this moment, his travel route is coming out of the central forbidden area. Number 3 told him that he could not enter there, but Bullet wanted to know what's in there. It's just that it doesn't work now. That guy Tunfo is still here underground, and he doesn't know if these guys have other means, so we have to be cautious first. What he had done before was the challenge of escaping from the marine, but now he was going to take the challenge of getting rid of the demons, or the challenge of entering the central forbidden area. Tunfo walked past him, and when he saw him, there was a little surprise in his eyes. Bullet calmly distanced himself from him. In the short intersecting moment just now, he felt a huge pressure from Tunfo. Although I saw the battle between them from a distance before, it was really not as obvious as experiencing the strength of the other party in person. I really don't know how far away I am from the current Tunfo if I enter a state of demonization. Indistinctly, he seemed to hear a murmuring sound coming from the most central room, like the whispering of a devil, causing him to sink. Bullet took a deep breath and walked towards the distance. He wanted to master his current power. Have you not found it yet? On the original ground, at the original pig cage walled city, Garp frowned and asked the returning marine. Sengoku and the others went to the city of ice and snow, while he stayed here, ready to search for the people who were originally trapped in the pig cage walled city. Report to Vice Admiral Garp, we have searched the area within a 20-mile radius, but found nothing. Hearing the Marine Colonel's report, Garp's frown deepened. What happened? The people in Pigpen walled city should be just ordinary people, and during the time when he was fighting Tunfo, they shouldn't be able to run so far, let alone dragging children, old people and some saluting people. Garp has even felt a little guilty about holding the mentality that everyone is dead, but now can't find it, including himself. He mobilized thousands of Marines to carry out a ground-digging search, not to mention finding the Pigpen walled city, but he didn't see a single person. This is impossible. If it is said that it is enough to leave the range of 20 miles with agility, but it is impossible for everyone to leave the range at this moment, right? Especially the owner of the steamed stuffed bun shop and the woman with the child he drove away at the end, they couldn't possibly leave. But he even lifted up the broken rocks of the mountain peaks that collapsed because of his battle with Tunfo, but there were still no signs of them. Isn't it so strange? A strange feeling emerged from Garp's heart. it's not normal, it's definitely not normal. The people of Pigpen Walled City have a problem. Garp thought this in his heart, and the doubts in his heart became more and more intense. He looked at Colonel Marine, who was waiting for his instructions, and said, "Close the team, leave the matter here to the local police and army, let's go north, and make peace with Sengoku." He searched for more than a day. Judging from this time, Sengoku should have already reached the city of ice and snow. He doesn't quite agree with Sengoku's idea. Justice is justice, evil is evil, justice must be the one who defeats evil. If justice and evil join hands to defeat evil, it cannot be called the victory of justice, so he hates mentioning the power of God. The Battle of Gu Na. In that battle, they joined forces with the Marine and Roger pirates. How similar is it to now? Perhaps Sengoku also knew Garp well, so he didn't let Garp follow him there, but tolerantly agreed to him, saying that he would stay here to investigate the survivors of the Pigpen Walled City. Both of them are old comrades in arms, and they know exactly what the other is thinking, and it is precisely because of this knowledge that they join hands to become stronger, right? Garp led the team to return to the city. Before leaving, he released observation Haki again unwillingly, and immediately enveloped the ruins of the original Pig Cage City. Garp had already given up, and this time observation Haki didn't have any hope. After all, it's not like he didn't dig out the ruins before, but this time he was suddenly stunned. Perhaps at this moment, he didn't have the intention of looking for someone all the time, but instead made Garp notice something that he hadn't noticed a few times before. Garp was already planning to leave here with the Marines, but at this moment he suddenly flashed and came to the ruins. He dug up the abandoned building with his own hands, and under the stunned and puzzled eyes of the other Marines, he saw Garp walking directly into the ruins. Vice Admiral Garp. The Marines ran over quickly, and suddenly heard Garp's loud laugh halfway. The next moment an incredible thing happened. I saw that the entire ruins of the town became fluid at this moment. Under the astonished eyes of the Marines, the collapsed building surged like flowing water, and then drilled into a picture scroll. The picture scroll in Garp's hands. At this moment, Garp stood on the cracked ground, raised one hand high, and a picture scroll appeared in his hand. In that picture scroll, a village and town in the mountains was impressively depicted. Garp, Vice Admiral, what happened? The Marines were shocked to see this unbelievable scene. The ruins of a huge village were all included in Garp's words at this moment. Incredible, really incredible. And Garp was looking at the picture scroll in his hand at the moment, which was exactly the appearance of the Pig Cage City he saw at the beginning, and there were even a lot of people inside. Some of them are washing and cooking in the picture scroll, while others are doing coolies. It is a simple picture scroll full of life. Garp was more and more amazed looking at this picture scroll. Could it be that the Pigpen Walled City he saw before was this picture? Those people he saw were actually people in the painting. But why is there such a situation? From the mouth of the government official at that time, it was known that the Pigpen Walled City was built by some people in the mountains to escape the war a long time ago. When Garp communicated with them before, he could feel the hardships of their lives, but at this moment. But such a picture scroll appeared. It's really strange. What is this picture scroll that has such magical power? Garp studied the picture scroll carefully, and the more he looked at it, the more absorbed he became. He seemed to be able to hear something faintly, but unfortunately it was nothing in the end. At this time, he was really envious of Roger's observation Haki, which could listen to everything. Garp sighed, and was about to put away the scroll, but when he left here to study again, a line of words suddenly appeared on the scroll. One step, one crime, one step, one lotus flower. These 10 characters appeared at the top of the scroll, and when they appeared, it seemed that the entire scroll became much darker, and all the light was concentrated on these 10 characters. One step, one crime, one step, one lotus flower. Garp read these 10 words, and suddenly felt puzzled. It sounds like it has something to do with Buddha or something, so let's throw it to Sengoku later. Naturally, this miraculous scroll cannot be created out of thin air. Of the 3 pieces of jade of the 4 souls that Genichi pulled out recently, one of them was taken away by the previous killing ring, and the other one is in this scroll. In addition to making creatures stronger, the jade fragments of the 4 souls can also be attached to items, making them produce magical effects. For example, it can be attached to the ink, and the monsters drawn with the ink will become real. Now he attaches it to the scroll, and the reason is naturally the same. At this moment, Genichi has gained a lot of negative emotion points through the events of these days. He already had more than 8.2 million negative emotion points when Garp and the others were still chasing Bullet. And after the appearance of number 3 and Tunfo, he has now reached the level of more than 9 million. It's almost. If it is a little worse, he will be able to reach 10 million negative emotion points. At that time, he will have to draw cards with tens of millions of characters. After the draw, he can make subsequent arrangements according to the characters. After all, this 10 million level character is his default demon lord in the future, and he must be extremely powerful. Now he can't pave the way for the future, because he still doesn't know what type of 10 million level character card will be next. Therefore, we can only wait until the emotional value is enough before making arrangements. Therefore, in the city of ice and snow, facing the coming Sengoku, Killing Ring under the control of Genichi did not say much about the current affairs. Instead, he said something about Tunfo. It's been thousands of years since you are now. At that time, the world was still in the era of demons and wizards. In the city of ice and snow, the traces of the original war have been covered by ice and snow. The barracks where the ice and snow tragedy happened before are now empty, and no one is willing to stay here. After witnessing the terrifying scene of calling for killing, people feel genuine fear. At this moment, this world has become an ice paradise. In a huge palace made of ice, Sharing sat on a chair, watching Sengoku and Xing, who came here from the south, and said softly. At that time, the world was divided into the human world and the demon world. Human beings and wizards stayed in the human world, and demons lived in the demon world. I don't know what happened. It may be because of the ghosts of human wizards. In short, the demon world was suddenly struck by a sky lightning. Gone. That sky thunder directly tore that world apart, but the demon lords of the demon world didn't care about this at all, because they would not die no matter what happened. As a listener, Sengoku listened to Sha Ring talking about the devil, which is very important information. However, when the world was on the verge of shattering and how many demons would die, a person appeared. Human. Sengoku raised an eyebrow. It's a human, but it's also a demon. Killing Ring said in a deep voice. Before the Tianlei incident, he was a human, and then he became a demon, because he used his own power to hold the demon world that was about to break, and stitch the earth together again. With amazing strength and wisdom, he became the 8th demon lord on the land of the demon world. Is it someone like Tuyuro? Do you want to become a monster? Sengoku couldn't help but think of the famous half-demon in the sea, whose strength is rare in the world, and he has been chasing after the 4 souls. Jade Fragment wants to use the power of the Jade of the 4 souls to make himself a real monster. So, is it the same for the person Sha Jia said was transformed into a demon? No, he is a born demon, but he is also a born human being. Killing Ring leaned back slightly, with his right leg on top of his left, and said calmly, he was born with a human body, but he was also born with a mind possessed by demons. His origin has always been a mystery, and no one in demons know his origin. What is his real name? Even his later subordinates just call it Thinkers. Strike and destroy the sky. What a strange name. Sengoku frowned. He looked at Shaji's slightly reminiscing appearance and said, so, Tunfo is the subordinate of Zimi Tianlai. Then it will be troublesome. If such a monster appears, if so, cooperate with Zero. It's hard to imagine that Shimie Tianlai brought back the demon world that was about to break apart. Although I don't know how big the demon world is, since it can be compared with the human world, it shouldn't be too small. How much power is needed to pull such a world back together? But Sengoku doesn't care much about this mythical story, who knows if it's true. There is only one question he wants to ask the most right now. Strike and destroy the sky. Sengoku looked at Killing Ring and finally spoke out his question. What's the relationship with Di Shishin? Aren't you his subordinate? Didn't Di Shishin order you to snatch back the palm of the Tathagata and the jade fragments of the 4 souls? When facing Tunfo a few days ago, he once said this sentence, and it is also the sentence he cares most about so far. Although he didn't pay much attention to this sentence at the time, he always wanted to find out later. His coming here has nothing to do with Indra. He came to Jaltsburg under the order of the world government. From this point of view, Tunfo is already wrong. At this moment, he has come to this cursed ice and snow city, and is sitting in a palace made of ice and snow with another demon killer. He still has a cup of hot black tea in his hand. It seems that this is a polite demon. While Sengoku asked, he took a sip of black tea, and the warm tea entered his body, dispelling some of the cold for him. Shaojia, as the person who created the cold, naturally didn't feel anything. After hearing Sengoku's words, he chuckled and said, I don't know, but they are indeed hostile. It is not surprising that he can keenly perceive the aura of God Shishin on your body. Sengoku nodded thoughtfully, and did not continue to ask, but gathered the information he had obtained before in a commotion. The words with Shaojia made him understand a lot. Even if he got nothing on this island, these words alone should be considered a big contribution. Killing Ring seemed to be waiting for Sengoku to sort out the information in his mind, and after a while he said, there are two major subordinates in Shimie Tianlai, the fire-swallowing Buddha and the lightning shelter, both of which are monsters related to Buddha. They will definitely not let you go in the future. Although I have nothing to do with D Shishin, if they appear, I will not let them destroy it. Sengoku didn't tell Shaji that he and D Shishin had a dream connection process. The alliance between them is very fragile. The reason why they cooperate is purely because they have to deal with another demon. So he didn't share some information, and sharing said so much because they were the weaker party in the cooperation. Although the other party held the jade fragments of the four souls in their hands, the fragments could not threaten them. Whatever bargaining chip you hold in your hand will eventually be turned into strength to measure the cooperative relationship between each other. Now the marine side has the advantage of strength, and the other party wants to cooperate only if they have to give some information. This is a tacit matter between the two parties. Even if they are not killed, Sengoku can apply for more combat power from the five elders, or even join forces with the Black Order. At that time, the world government will gather more combat power here, and it can still deal with Tunfo and them. Then, let's get down to business. Sengoku no longer thinks about D Shishin's affairs. After all, this thing is not the most important thing now. No matter what the relationship between D Shishin and Shimie Tianlai, they only exist in a dream now. One is still in hell, neither of them is the most direct thing to face. Which demon lord is Zero? What are his abilities, and what are they doing on the third? Or, how long do we have? Sengoku gently placed the black teacup in his hand on the table in front of him. This time is actually what the two sides really want to talk about, and the previous one is just a prelude. It doesn't matter who Zero is, because no matter who he is, as long as he doesn't appear in this world, there won't be any problems. If you directly ask about his weaknesses or abilities, it will only make me feel that your side will treat us in the future. There is no confidence in their cooperation. Killing Ring smiled and said, they don't have the four-soul jade fragment corresponding to Zero, so they can only use a special method to call a lord back from hell. Such a ceremony should be very complicated. Quote, they use the jade fragments of the four souls and the little dragon corresponding to Lord Holy Master as sacrifices to open the gate of hell corresponding to Lord Holy Master. Then use the door to hell leading to Lord to guide Zero to appear. They need a road sign that can receive Zero's signal in this world and a transmitter that can transmit signals to hell. In addition to this, special rituals are needed to enhance the ability of this signpost and transmitter to receive and transmit signals, and now they have got that person. Bullet, Sengoku said directly. When he heard Garp say it, he also noticed the phrase, a qualified body, that is to say, Bullet is qualified to be the signpost and launcher mentioned by Killing Ring. Killing Ring also replied affirmatively, that's right, they have already obtained Douglas Bullet, which means that their plan has reached the final stage, and they only need to get Xiaolong. Their next move is to capture the demon dragon. Sengoku thought for a moment, then said, so you mean we should protect him? As long as the demon dragon is protected, the opponent will always be short of this last step. If it were Sengoku, he would choose to do this, but he obviously underestimated the madness of the demon. The corner of Shajia's mouth rose, and he said disdainfully, don't judge us by your human thinking. If you passively wait for human protection, what kind of son of the Holy Lord is that? Seeing Sengoku's surprised expression, Killing Ring continued, I have the jade fragment of the four souls that Tun Buddha needs in my hand, and it is also the jade fragment of the four souls that you who are related to D Shishin need. If you can get it, strength will become stronger. When you have fully mastered the new power, Xiaolong will take the initiative to use it as a bait to lure out all the enemy's army, and then we will conduct a battle of annihilation. Lure them out with bait. Sengoku immediately nodded in agreement and said, we can cooperate with you, but you have to hand over the jade fragment of the Four Souls first. This thing is useless to me. The jade fragment of the Four Souls appeared in Shajia's hand, and he threw it at Sengoku casually. Sengoku spread out his hand and caught the fragment of the jade of the Four Souls. He also touched a fragment of the jade of the Four Souls from Garp's hand at the beginning, so he knew that this was the genuine product, a fragment with real special power. After all, it's not that no one has used fake 400 jade fragments to pretend to be real ones to receive rewards these years, and many times the Marines below can't tell the real from the fake. But Killing Ring is obviously not that kind of person. Sengoku looked at the fragment of the jade of the Four Souls in his hand, and was about to put it away, but suddenly saw that the fragment began to tremble violently the next moment. It turned into a beam of light, escaped from Sengoku's palm, and rushed towards the dew. Sengoku and Killing Ring moved almost at the same time. They left their seats, and quickly chased the fragment of the jade of the Four Souls that was far away. The jade of the Four Souls turned into golden light. This scene Sengoku vaguely saw. That was when the jade of the Four Souls was torn apart by a powerful force on the Valley of the Gods, and countless fragments were also split like this. He quickly followed and left the ice and snow palace, only to see that ray of golden light suddenly submerge into the marine he brought. He and Killing Ring looked at each other, and frowned at the same time. That kid, Shajia said, it was chosen by the jade of the Four Souls. Speaking of which, what is the Tathagata palm? Sengoku looked at the jade fragment of the Four Souls, which directly entered the body of a marine from Seaman Recruit, a newcomer among the newcomers. In fact, it is true, because he was just invited by Sengoku to join Marine, that is, a Xing. That's right. That piece of jade from the Four Souls just entered Ah Xing's body. How do I know about that? Hearing Sengoku's question, Shajia said coldly, that's something you should pay attention to, but it's nothing more than a systematic training guide for something like the hockey you practice now. Seeing that the jade fragments of the Four Souls were not out of control, Shajia turned around, I will come to see you again when the time is right, and then it will be the final decisive battle. Before that, I don't want to stay with you humans. Quote. Sengoku didn't care about him. The two sides are not the same way. After getting along for a long time, this fragile alliance may be directly broken due to the difference in values. It is better to play on your own first, and then join forces when necessary. With a common enemy, they can cooperate better. As the Killing Ring left, the temperature here gradually rose. Sengoku looked at the commotion in front of the crowd, and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. The jade fragments of the Four Souls directly entered Ah Xing's body. I really don't know what the world government will say at that time. They obviously want the jade fragments of the Four Souls. However, it seems that the fragments should not leave easily. Ah Xing's body. Want to keep things here private? Impossible. Don't look at the fact that there are only Marines here. In fact, I don't know how many CPs are staring at this place, which is another troublesome thing, but at least there is no need to worry now. Sengoku can only comfort himself like this. Ah Xing was specially invited by him to join Marine. He is very optimistic about Ah Xing. He is very strong and talented. More importantly, he also seems to have a little relationship with Di Shishan. In the next relationship, as long as he is not that kind of evil person, then Sengoku will even regard him as the pillar of the next generation of Marine. Burning text. He has this talent, and now the selection of the jade fragments of the Four Souls confirmed this point even more. Sengoku walked forward. The Marines were all looking at A Xing in surprise, and many people asked what happened to A Xing, and A Xing himself it also seemed very ignorant, as if it was not clear. After seeing Sengoku approaching, the people suddenly fell silent. The quality of the soldiers restrained their curiosity. A Xing, come with me. At this moment, there is a little golden light on Ah Xing's forehead, which is the place where the jade fragments of the Four Souls are inlaid, but the golden light is getting dimmer and dimmer until it completely dissipates. Will retreat. Being named by Sengoku, other people are not surprised. After all, they watched the golden light directly enter A Xing's body, so something must have happened. Ah Xing walked towards Sengoku in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, his body has fully recovered. How does your body feel? Sengoku took 2 steps along the ice and snow palace, Xing followed quickly, and the two of them moved forward as if they were taking a walk. Xing said, "It's surprisingly good, and I feel as if I have entered a higher realm, very comfortable. The pieces of jade that entered your body are the jade fragments of the 4 souls." Because Xing has been staying on this island all the time, Sengoku specially explained what the jade of the 4 souls is, which made Xing's complexion change slightly. "It's such a precious thing. Is Sengoku Admiral going to take it out?" "You don't have to be so nervous," Sengoku said, "although this is a very important thing, since it has chosen you, it represents fate, and I will not let you hand it over. Xing is a rookie with great potential. Sengoku doesn't want to make enemies with him because of a piece of jade of the 4 souls. He is destined to be a new marine star in the future." Xing's face gradually eased, and he let out a light breath. "Thank you, Sengoku Admiral. I'm your superior, and this is what I should do." Sengoku said softly, "Before you have been recuperating quietly, there is one thing I haven't had time to ask you. You should be talking about the palm of the Tathagata." Xing asked with a glance at Sengoku's face. "That's right." Sengoku looks normal. He knows that this kind of question is taboo. It's like directly asking someone what stage your hockey practice is, what is your devil fruit ability, but now that Xing has decided to join Marine, he should have this question consciousness. If he hadn't joined Marine, Sengoku wouldn't have asked. Xing was silent for a moment, and continued walking with Sengoku. He seemed to hesitate, but finally said after seeing Sengoku's figure. "As I said before, this is a secret book I got when I was very young. If you follow the instructions in the book, you can get a magical power. But only certain people can learn it. I used to teach it to my friends when I was a child, but they didn't change anything. As Killing Ring said, it really looks like hockey's practice. However, further judgment is required. Can you show me the palm of the Tathagata?" Sengoku said directly. Because Xing was injured before, Sengoku didn't say this to him until now. Xing also nodded decisively and said, "Okay." Immediately, the momentum on his body changed suddenly, making him as grand and vast as a high mountain, as if standing on the periphery of the forest and looking inside, feeling infinitely profound and quiet. Sengoku narrowed his eyes slightly. He wanted to have a good look at what Di Shishin gave him. Di Shishin was extremely mysterious, and the Tathagata palm had some kind of relationship with him, and now it really looked like that. He only felt that Xing looked very much like his Buddha form at the moment, and as the wind stopped, Xing swung his palm violently. Hearing the thunder in a silent place, Sengoku felt an instant explosion in his ears. A huge force was released from the palm of Xing, a special hockey-like force spread out, and with a bang, the ice in front of him was blown away. The palace directly hit a mark. 1. Huge palm imprint. The ice used by Killing Ring is not ordinary ice. The ice and snow he made is harder than steel, and the ice palace he built is an out-and-out fortress. However, Xing's palm at that moment pierced through the ice palace beyond the hardness of steel, and left a huge palm print. Outsiders would be amazed by it. But for laymen to watch the excitement, and for experts to watch the doorway, only people of Sengoku's level can know what happened just now. The fighting method in this world is nothing more than using hockey or devil fruit, and there are also a mixture of the two. People's practice of hockey is just a simple accumulation, making hockey stronger and more. At most it is to make it entangled and released. For example, Xing's palm just now was actually hockey's external release, which is considered to be a very high level of hockey practice. However, what surprised Sengoku was not this, but his use of hockey was simply outrageous. To put it simply, if there is a total of 100 hockey in a human body, most people in this world will use this 100 hockey in batches as force to beat out, and the total damage caused as this 100, exhausted is equivalent to exhaustion of physical strength. And Xing used a special action at that moment just now, or he conducted a special kind of guidance on hockey, so that when the total amount of 100 hockey in his body is converted into lethality, the conversion efficiency is extremely high. Even higher than the original total amount. The killing effect of the palm he hit should be 2, 3 times or even higher than the hockey used, which is Buddha's palm. What a magical power! It's not that there are no similar skills in the pirate world, but that kind of skill is actually more about getting out more of the power in your body. Originally, The total amount of hockey was 100, but originally it could only hit 10, but using some moves can hit 20 or even 30. Even if there are some that improve the destruction efficiency like Tathagata Palm, it is far less than this chapter. Moreover, that kind of moves and skills are often developed by oneself to suit oneself, and are often closely related to one's own physique and devil fruit, but Tathagata Palm appears in the form of a book. Doesn't that mean it is similar to Marine 6 styles? So Sengoku sees huge potential in this. If this kind of guidance to hockey can be popularized among Marines, then the justice of Marines in this world will be rock solid. This is simply the dragon-slaying sword given to Marine by heaven. Sengoku was excited at this moment. Compared with the miraculousness displayed by Ashing at this moment, what is the fact that the pieces of the Jade of the Four Souls that are destined to be handed over are waiting for the almost impossible to get the complete Jade of the Four Souls? At this moment, Sengoku almost made up his mind to keep Ashing. If it would be dangerous to hand over the Jade fragment of the Four Souls on Ashing, he would never let Ashing hand it over. This is the effect of the so-called martial arts cheats after the world adapts to the rules. It is equivalent to a more advanced technique, which is much more advanced than the so-called emission, but, as I said before, Tathagata God's palm is not something that ordinary people can practice. It has very high requirements for the qualifications of practice. Ashing saw the hotness in Sengoku's eyes, and already knew what was going on in his mind. He couldn't help but said, "So far, no one has been able to practice successfully except me." Ashing had been doing nothing for more than 10 years before being opened up by the Huiyan evil god, and although he could sometimes show the power of the palm of the Tathagata, most of the time it had no effect. It is impossible for people without corresponding qualifications to obtain the power of Tathagata God's palm. Only 1 in a million martial arts prodigies can achieve this. 1 in a million sounds like a very small concept, but it must be viewed based on the base of the world's population. Conqueror's hockey is a rare talent that can only be awakened among millions of people. There are still many people who have Conqueror's hockey, and the Tathagata God's palm is just a modifier, but there must be many people who can satisfy it. Requirements. After all, Marine is the biggest force in the world, lacking everything but no shortage of people. Compared with Conquerors, a power that is difficult to awaken in Marine, Tathagata Palm is undoubtedly more convenient. No wonder Sengoku is so excited. So, Ashing continued, "But, Sengoku Admiral, you also have a destiny with Buddha, maybe you can succeed." Sengoku's eyes lit up. "You mean, you want to give me the Tathagata Palm?" Buddhas and demons should be opposites. Ashing said after a moment of silence, "If it is to deal with evil, I think the person who gave me the palm of the Tathagata would agree, but that book is now out of date. It was snatched by the demons. I don't know if I can succeed just by guiding my movements." "Thank you so much, Shing. You are simply the savior of this world." Sengoku said immediately, "The power of justice will be multiplied by you. Although you have to start with seaman recruit, your contribution is too great. Later, I will apply to Marshal Kong to form a new army. At that time, you will be the captain of that army, and I will apply to you, Rear Admiral rank." Quote ? Shingtong shrank, and said involuntarily, "This, isn't that good?" Sengoku directly said, "That's good, you'll be the best new star in Marine." Originally, Sengoku let Ashing start working step by step to test his character, but now there is no need to test him at all, because Ashing will make the greatest contribution to naval headquarters, and he is only a rear admiral rank. Too low. In his mind Ashing will be vice admiral sooner or later or even admiral. A special troop will bring together the best talents in the entire Marine. If they can practice Tathagata Palm, they will stay. If they can't be eliminated, then this troop will become the strongest blade in Marine. The name of this unit has been thought of. It's called Sword. This force is their Marine's strongest blade. Seeing Sengoku's resolute look, Ashing was a little uneasy, and said, "Then, are you going to practice now?" "No hurry, wait for Garp to come." Sengoku suddenly threw a punch and completely smashed the wall of the ice palace. He wanted to eliminate the evidence of the Tathagata Palm released by Ashing. Although it is said that as long as he does not observe the details of Azing's power as carefully as he did before, nothing abnormal can be seen, but now it is not guaranteed that any person or demon has a special ability to trace information. The current level of intelligence on Oshing is so high. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.